Hello friends, welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to Code Wars Code Katas, episode 39. Nice drops, everyone. If you're new to the show, you can visit github.com/codinggarden/code-katas. All of the solutions from past episodes are here, and all the solutions that I solve tonight will be there as well. And if you're new to Code Wars, you can go to codewars.com, and they have lots of different problems of different skill levels, all the way from 8Q up to 1Q, 8Q being the easiest, 1Q being the hardest. Tonight, we're going to take it easy. We're going to do like 1 8Q, 1 7, 1 6. We're not going to bang our heads against the wall. We are going to show multiple ways to solve it, and it's going to be a fun time. Let's say hello to all the people in the chat. Hello, Shaggy. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Ran. Hello, Alka. Hello, Andrew. Alka is currently sailing a ship, so maybe they'll drop by later. And hello, Gene. Welcome. Hello, VJ. Welcome to the show. Good morning. It's evening for me. Andrew. Hello, Andrew. And hello, Anarud. Welcome. Hello, Client Telephone. Evening. Hello, Heck. Hello, Shaggy. Hello, Brandon. Hello, Joe. Thanks for being here, everyone. Hello, Dana Chu. What's up? You were so early, your chat didn't pop up. That's definitely a possibility. Yeah, I usually start this thing after the stream has already started. I don't know. Hello, Majestic Guy. Howdy, Reed. Hello, Gene. Welcome, everyone. Cool. So let's get right into it. So I am going to show ones that I have not trained on. And we're going to sort by most completed. So the problems on Code Wars are user submitted, so some of them can be pretty hard to parse, as in the instructions are very convoluted. So we're going to do our best to find a decent one. Dana Chu is asking, how did the Hangman Garden game go? It went all right. We didn't finish it completely, but we do have currently a multiplayer game. So if you go here, and before we start coding, we can play this really quick. But if you go here, you can type in your name, choose a team to join, and then you can you take turns guessing. And right now, essentially, the first person on the team to guess a letter, that's the letter that gets submitted for that team. What we want to do eventually is the team has to work together to decide which letter they're going to guess. But yeah. And hello, Eternal Dev Coder. Welcome. Hello, Ruben. Tram Stars says it's 3 in the morning, can't sleep, and it was like, CJ streaming. Awesome. Welcome to the show. So Gene is on my team. I just guessed the letter T. Oh, Shaggy already guessed. So I also added this. You can see the history of what has been guessed. Let's go with the letter S. No S. Oh, I know this one. Nice. Web performance. And hello, Mahidra. Welcome. Oh, did you change your image to Pikachu? Very cool. Yeah, so that's how this game works. Once you join, you can pick a team, and then you can start sending things. Yeah, it's pretty fun. The end goal is to make it much more themed. So instead of just getting points right now, yeah, each team has points. We'll make it, and you can see that it's never ending, so the score just stays there forever. But we're going to make it so that you have a garden, and each letter you get correct, it plucks something from the garden. And the first team to clear out their garden wins the round, and then it starts over. And we could allow multiple games to happen at the same time. Right now it's just one game and 2 teams. I don't know, I'm guessing the same letter over and over. What could this be? No E. No M. No N. P? No. Q? No. Somebody guessed R? Yeah, somebody just guessed R. L. It's Gecko. Are you banned? Really, Ran? It shouldn't be. If you open the DevTools, you can see if there are any errors, but you should be able to join. You have to type a name in, though. It won't let you type nothing in. No T. Yeah, that's why it's not that fun right now, because basically the first person on your team to guess gets the letter in instead of it being collaborative. We've talked about having like a chat window where you can talk back and forth and decide what's the best letter. Oh, that letter was already guessed. Oh, I know it. Nice, privilege. Cool. So that's a fun game. Hello, Alicia, who said, I was just starting the stream where you made this game. It was a hectic stream. We eventually got it working, though, and it was super fun because I shared my code session. So shout out to Majestic Eye, who made the logo, and him and Alka also worked on the styles and made it look really nice while I was working on like the back-end logic. And we have a new member, Brandon Myers. No way. Thank you so much, Brandon. Let's see. A droplet. Sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So as a YouTube member, you have the ability to use exclusive emotes like that one. You also get access to exclusive Discord channels, and I'll show your name on the screen. So thanks so much, Brandon. Much appreciated. Yeah, the logo looks great. Daniel Garden says, I may or may not have coded a bot for it. Well, I coded a bot for it too. And you know what? There aren't many people here, so I'm going to start my bot up, and it's going to beat all of you. I think I made a word bot. Yeah. All right, here it goes. I think their names are Jerry and Albert. Yeah, there we go. They're that quick. I got my two bots, Jerry and Albert. They just guess so fast. I can delay their guesses, but right now I have them only waiting 10 milliseconds before they make a guess. Yeah. I literally just wrote socket clients that because you can see the letters that they're guessing. They know which letters are possible. They're too OP. Yeah, I'm gonna stop them. I just wanted to show you. Okay, and you all can keep playing the game, feel free, but we're going to solve some code katas. We're going to start out with an 8Q, which is fairly easy. Let's look at this one. Hello world. It might be too easy. Make a simple function called greet that returns the most famous hello world. Sure, this is as easy as it gets, but how clever can you be to create the most creative hello world you can think of? What is a hello world solution you want to show your friends? You know what? We're going to do this, and while we do this, I'm going to talk about different types of functions in JavaScript. We can probably talk about scope too. So let's do it. You know, sometimes we just got to go back to the basics. So let's do it. And Alka made a page where you could put in a kata ID and get back the slug. Let's see. Alka code pen. Code Wars API. Here we go. Shout out to Alka. So you can put the ID in, click get, and it will give you all the info about it. So here we go. Here's the slug. Function 1 hello world. So here I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it HelloWorld.js. Typically I like to solve the codes locally. You can just put your code right into the box here, but it's easier to try it multiple different ways. And we'll add in our tests. And we're just going to change these to console logs. So I want to test that type of greet is a function. And this should log true. And when we call greet, it should return hello world. And Dylan loves the new pizza maker. Thank you, Dylan. So I'm going to start up Quokka, which is a tool that will run my code inside the browser. Or sorry, inside VS Code. Excuse me. And right now it says greet equals function false. So greet is not a function. How can we make this line of code true? We can write a function called greet. Now the classic way is to just say function greet like that. And now it is a function, but by default, functions that don't have a return statement return undefined. So that's why we're seeing that right there. And probably the simplest thing to do is to literally just return a string hello world. like that. Great. But we could go about it other ways. We could put this in a variable if we really wanted to. Don't die on stream. Oh, thank you. I'm going to take a drink of water. So let's put it in a variable called like greeting. So we store it in a variable and then we return the variable. Works the same way. That's great. Let's actually show it both ways. So we could return it directly. We could put it in a variable. What else? We could use a function expression. So when you see a function written with the function keyword only, this is known as a function declaration. But you could also use a function expression. And the way a function expression works is by creating a variable and assigning it to a function. So I'm going to comment these out. And I'm going to say const greet equals a function that then returns hello world, like that. And as you can see, the code still works, but this is known as a function expression because this right here is a function expression that we're then storing inside of this variable called greet. But in JavaScript, functions are first-class citizens, so you can store them in variables, and then later on, you can invoke it because inside of that variable is a function. So functionally, these two things are the same. Pun intended. Like if we look at these two, they're ultimately doing the same thing, but one thing to note is hoisting happens here. So if you define a function called greet and you use a function declaration, this function can be called anywhere. So I could call greet right here before it's defined, and it still works. I could call it after it's defined, and it still works. Great. But if we use... why are people saying WTF? Hello, everyone. I'll catch up. Why does greet look so weird? Have you ever tried thinking of spelling a word too much to where you can't even remember how it's pronounced? Yeah, try the word skeleton. Just type the word skeleton over and over and over again, and it gets really, really hard. You can't recognize it anymore. And hello, Deadly. Welcome to the show. Hello, TrekSpace. If you do !VS Code, you'll get a link to all my plugins and settings and such. Hello, Sean. Welcome. Sean's our latest avocado member. Welcome, Sean. The word skeleton. No, like literally skeleton. Skeleton? Skeleton? Cool. Okay, so what we were talking about. So when you use a function declaration, you can call it anywhere. But watch this. So now when we use a function expression assigned to a variable, if we try to call greet right here, well, for one, there's more issues here because we're using const. So it says cannot access greet before initialization. This is actually a deeper subject, but this is known as the temporal dead zone. So you can't access const or let variables above where they're defined. But if we used the word var, we're going to get a different error. So bonus points in the chat. When I change this to var, what error will we see? What error are we we're not going to see cannot access greet before initialization. What are we going to see if I change this to a var instead of a const? You get coding garden points if you get it right. And thanks for the follow. Ooh, Mario. Reference error? Can you... I mean, don't... No. Undefined is not a function. Like, cannot invoke undefined. And we'll talk about why that is. Or greet is not a function. Though, we might actually get a different error if we run this with node.js rather than using Quokka. Not a function. That. Greet is not a function. I feel like might be because we're using Node version 12. No, I'm using Node version 13. Here, I'm gonna go way back. I'm gonna do Node version not way back. I'll try Node version 8 or something. Public void potato return llama. Thank you, Dylan. Let's do like Node version 8. I think the errors got better in version 13. Because usually it'll say, like, cannot invoke undefined or undefined is not a function. Now let's try it. Ah, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Yes, we can see your avatar. NVM... Oh, yeah, we'll go back to 13. Okay, so we know now that it does say greet is not a function. Instead of, let's change it to const. we should get the same error in the console. Cannot access greet before initialization. But let's talk about why. So when you use a function expression versus a function declaration, in JavaScript, all of your variables are hoisted to the top of the scope when the function first, or when the program first starts up. So basically what happens is every single variable declaration like this gets put up at the top with no value on it, right? So it gets moved up to the top, and then the word var, it just doesn't happen exactly, but you could think about it like that. So even though you wrote your code like this, at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that gets moved to the top with no value, and then the value gets assigned here. So if you were to write this code, this makes a little bit more sense, because when it reaches this line, it says, I mean, you didn't put a value in greet, and so your program is running top down. And so when it gets here, greet is not a function. Then you assign it to a value, which is a function, and our code will never make it there because it breaks right here. But if I comment that out, then it will actually work, because at this point, the greet value has the function inside of it. So two different ways to define the function. They have implications. And thanks for the follow, Deadly. And good morning, Tennisk. Yeah, this is mostly a family-friendly stream. Cool. So there's that. There's that. Now let's talk about arrow functions. So, and actually, arrow functions work very similar to this. So with an arrow function, we can say something like const greet equals an arrow function that returns hello world. Cool. And this actually has the same implications, right? So we're taking this function right here, we're storing it in a variable, so I can't call it before it's actually initialized with the value. The most in-depth hello world I've seen. Like I mentioned, this is going to be more of we're talking about functions. So similar things are happening, but arrow functions, there are more implications that for this problem don't actually matter, but arrow functions don't have a this keyword, regular functions do, things like that. Cool. So we can't call it before, but we can call it after. But there's more things you can do with arrow functions. So if an arrow function literally consists of just a single return statement, you can write it on just one line. So you can say const greet equals an arrow function, and then just return hello world like that. And it works in exactly the same way. So, and again, this is because we're using arrow functions. So arrow functions have this special thing about them. If it's a single statement that is being returned, you can just put it all on one line and you're good to go. Notice that we don't have the curly braces. So if I add curly braces, actually in the chat, let me know what's going to happen if I add curly braces. You put the arrow down. That's funny. Oh, thank you, Deadly. And Client Telephone says, I'm 100% on board for these types of videos. I appreciate that. I do want to do, like, dedicated function videos with, like, a curriculum and such. Yeah. Hello, Annaboth. It's been a while. Welcome. Hex says, it will return undefined. Yes, yeah. So, I mean, it may not look like it. Yeah, so, and Daniel Garden has it too. It returns undefined because there's no return keyword. So, if you try to find yourself writing an arrow function on a single line like this, but you do this, ultimately, you can see it right here, the function returns undefined. And really, it's because it's like you wrote it like this. And remember, if you don't have a return keyword, it's kind of just like your function says return undefined, like that. I mean, you don't have to put that. That's what just happens by default. It's like you literally just put a string and didn't do anything with it. So you have to be careful with your arrow functions. Make sure you leave the curly braces off. It gets a little bit more confusing if you're trying to create an arrow function that returns an object on a single line, because those are curly braces, but we're not going to talk about that now. Yeah, Daniel Gordon says, I've made that mistake many times in my code. Definitely sometime since I last joined. Pepe hands as I'm working now. I don't have much time to watch streams live. Is this a Franker face emote? Because we do have better Twitch TV emotes working, I thought. We might get that working tonight. Cool. Franker face? I need to get the global Franker face emotes. But no worries. Thanks for dropping by. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, lots of different ways to write the function. For this problem, I would probably write it like this. What the heck is the word we're trying to guess? Should I start up my bot? Let's look at it. Word garden. And thanks for the follow, Rublev. Oh, I know what it is. Chat Translator does a lot of different languages. It was actually developed by Instafluff. But if you go to the Chat Translator channel, you can see all of the languages that it supports. I don't think it's gray areas. Back to the pizza maker. The can English to talk. Irish. Is that Irish? Do you know it now? Grub areas. Grid area. Yeah, grid areas. It's like a CSS thing. Cool. Okay, so yeah, we did the hello world thing. I think, like, with modern JavaScript, I would probably write it this way. If we really were just writing a function that was returning a string, I would probably write it this way. But like if you're new to JavaScript and new to these arrow functions, it can be weird to see them written in different ways. But I would go this route. So I'm gonna submit that. That was a fun little chat about functions and hello world and such. Sample tests. Can I explain how map works? We'll try to find a problem. If we a 7Q problem that would involve using map, we can do that, and I can talk about it. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna submit that one. I think we'll do one more 8Q because that was pretty easy. Write a function to return a string rather than a constant variable. It's ultimately just what the problem asked for. That might make sense too. So if you at the end of the day, you could say like greeting is that, and then this function just returns the variable greeting. But then you could ask yourself, why don't you just use the variable greeting? But yeah, I don't know. And it's interesting, but the JavaScript compiler actually does optimize things like this. So like if you have the string hello world multiple times in your code, it will optimize it into like a single place in memory. Yeah. Here, let me enable the drop game while we search for another problem to do. Yeah, Deadly. So I've been programming for a very long time. So I am trying to solve them and teaching at the same time. It's easy for me to do when they're less difficult, but if you want to watch me struggle, you can see some streams where I try to solve these 5, 4, and 3 Qs, which get very hard, and it kind of gets hard for me to teach while I try to do it because I'm trying to figure it out. But for these, it's easier for me to teach. And all the past episodes are on this Git repo if you want to check them out. And there's a playlist on my YouTube. Okay, let's do another 8Q. And actually, we can see how other people solved it. So there's the function with hello world. This is the exact same function I submitted. Somebody wrote some random character generator that will generate a random word until it reaches hello world. I think. Or no, they wrote a random what do you call it? It's seeded. Yeah, so it's not necessarily random. They do have a random function, but because of the seed value, yeah, I see Black Deep says it looks like a carefully selected seed. They generate a 5-letter word and a 5-letter word. Wow. Okay. Generate car times that plus that. Oh, I did not know that. Oh, no. I see. They overwrote the math.random function. I see. But at the same time, then later on, they can seed it with a new value. Cool. It took 40 minutes to print hello world. That's funny. Okay, here's greet. Here's a bunch of comments. That's a Pikachu. And then return hello world followed by a bunch of comments. You would like this one, Mahidra. Look at that. That's pretty funny. Let's see what else. Yeah, and so again, can anyone tell me what this is called? We talked about it. This is a what? It's not a function declaration. It's a... Well, that's a poop pika. That's awesome. What channel is that from? Surprised. Very cool. I mean, it technically is an anonymous function, but what did I call it? A function expression. Yes. So you have the function expression that then gets stored in a variable. This is great. So they have a character, like a value a that they increment a bunch of different times, and then in the shape of hello world that ultimately creates the letters that they need for hello world. All right, that's enough of that. That's fun. Let's solve another one. Is n divisible by x and y? Do I get a bonus? Abbreviate a 2-word name. Are you playing banjo? Reversed words. Sum arrays. I'm curious why this didn't get there is this language which is similar to BF. This thing. Yeah, no worries. But if you check out this language, we could, I don't know, like a console.log of hello world. It gets turned into this. And if you execute this code, like if you literally take this code and put it into a JavaScript program, it's going to log hello world. Oh, there is a kata for actually, I don't want to learn that language. I mean, actually, so I will say this. There's a really cool YouTube channel. It's called LowLevel JavaScript, where he basically implements that language. So, I mean, I could talk about it, but he's already talked about it. So I'm going to direct you to his YouTube channel. Which one is it? Doc did that kata. It took 3 days. Building a language parser and interpreter. I think this one might be it. Or not. I don't know, but there's a video on his channel somewhere where he actually implements a similar compiler. Or like, well, he implements, I think, something that will turn any code into language like that. But his channel is really cool because he uses all JavaScript and shows how to do a lot of things that you normally only see done with like C++ and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay, so this problem is called sum array. Write a method that takes an array of numbers and returns the sum of the numbers. This may be integers or decimals. I think we'll do this one because we can talk about reduce. Someone asked about map earlier, so I was trying to figure out a problem that would involve map. Yeah, let's do this one. This will be a fun little learn about reduce. JavaScript is weird, Extreme Edition. Okay, yeah, check that one out on his channel. Okay, so we need a function called sum that takes in an array of numbers and then sums them all together. So if you're curious about reduce, this is a great example. So I'll solve it without reduce, and then I'll solve it with reduce and talk about it. So new problem. Also, quick tip. When you use a function declaration, you should not have a semicolon at the end of the function. The semicolon only comes at the end of a function expression because it is an expression. And it's also optional because we're in JavaScript, but think about it like an expression is like one line of code. So you put a semicolon at the end of a function expression, but not at the end of a function. So that's weird that they did that. Okay. Let's try this. I'm going to start up Quokka, but always at the end of a C++ class. Interesting. I believe in JavaScript ES 2015, you don't put a semicolon on it, but you technically can have a class expression assigned to a variable, and if you do that, you do put a semicolon on it. I think that's how it works. Yeah. So in JavaScript, oh, you mean semicolons, right? Pretend she hasn't been putting this at the end of functions this entire time. So, like I said, you don't want to put them here, but if I said, like, const sum equals a function, like this, the semicolon does go there because that's an expression. And really what I think the JavaScript compiler will return, if you put a semicolon there, what happens is it, like, puts it on the next line, and then it's just, like, an empty statement. Yeah. And Deadly is asking, I think you meant semicolons, right? But it's in JavaScript, it's called ASI, or automatic semicolon insertion. Yeah, no worries. What does ASI mean? And then here are, what are the rules for automatic semicolon insertion? So if you look at the ECMAScript standard, which is the standard that defines how JavaScript works, it describes automatic semicolon insertion. Automatic semicolon insertion. And so basically, if you don't write semicolons in your JavaScript code, the compiler or the runtime, if you will, whenever you're running your JavaScript code, actually, in one of its first passes, will insert semicolons based on a set of rules. Let's see right here. First of all, you should know which statements are affected by the automatic semicolon insertion, also known as ASI. An empty statement, a var, an expression. And here is section 11.9.1 of the ECMAScript standard on the rules of automatic semicolon insertion. So you can actually look at the ECMAScript standard, and this is going to link us to it. I don't know which version of it is. In the 2016 version, cool. Rules of yeah. So, you can link to this right here. And this is just a big description of what should happen whenever you're writing a JavaScript interpreter and where you should put semicolons automatically. So, if you want to learn more about it, you look at there. I'll show your message, Dylan. But basically, in certain scenarios, the interpreter will insert semicolons before it runs your code. So that's why you can leave them off. But there are a few gotchas. I just use semicolons all the time. I started my programming career in Java and C#, and those use semicolons. So I've just always used semicolons since then. Yeah. To me, it's like a period on the end of a sentence. And hello, Mattia. Welcome. All right, let's write this sum function. So we'll write it out with pseudocode first, then we'll implement it with a for loop. Then I can show it with a for each and with a reduce, and talk about how they all relate. So we want to sum the numbers. What we need first is a place to store the sum, initialized to 0. So the sum starts off as nothing because we haven't looked at the array yet, and then we need to look at every number in the array. So we'll say iterate over the array of numbers. So we're going to be able to look at each number inside of the array, and then we will increase the sum by the current number, and at the end of it all, we're going to return the sum. So let's do it. So a place to store the sum. I'm going to put this in a variable. We can talk really quick about the difference between const and let. So I'm going to call this total. And I actually wouldn't use a const here because I need to reassign it. So I'm going to leave it as a const right now, and we'll see what error we get. But this needs to be a let. And if you're new to const and let, that's might help you realize why we use one over the other. But we need a for loop, so I'm going to say for. Again, I'm going to use const. Const I equals 0. Well, I is less than numbers.length, I plus plus. We need to do the thing. And you can see right now that we're getting an error, assignment to constant variable. And that's happening right here because on each iteration of the for loop, we're trying to reassign I. And with const, you can't do that. With const, once you put a value inside of a variable, it cannot be reassigned. So we can't do that because in this case, we're trying to reassign it by increasing the value. So we need to make this a let. and it works. But let allows you to put new values inside of that variable. Cool. And so we need to increase the sum by the current number. So we're going to say total plus equals numbers at I. And again, we're getting this error, assignment to constant variable, because we're trying to overwrite total even though it's a const. So this needs to be a let because we're reassigning it. And numbers bracket I is going to grab each number in that array, add it into the total, and then lastly, we return the total. Cool. And it works. Python code for this kata. Pass. Does that mean it would be too easy? Or this right here? I don't know. This I is a variable that I create. So when you're writing for loops in JavaScript, there are 3 sections of the for loop. The first section is like the initialization, and you can do anything you want here. So anything you want, and not only that, other things too. So basically, this section here, in front of the semicolon, it's known as like the place where you do initialization. This is typically why you see people doing let I equal 0. And I is like the standard programming variable because it means index or iterator. And so I is like the index inside of the array. So that's why people call it I. But really, you can call this whatever you want. And then the second section here is the check to see if the for loop should continue. So again, we could put anything we want right here. If I could put the word true, and now we have an infinite loop, because this is just going to be repeating forever. But this is our condition to tell the for loop to stop. So our condition in this case is if I is less than numbers.length, keep on doing what you're doing. And then the last part is the increment. So and actually, let's do this. We can debug this code to see it run, and we can watch it go through those different parts of the for loop. So let's pull up the debugger. Run. Node. Well, no, I want it to stop right about. Actually, I'm going to disable Quokka. Right about there. Let's go. Node. Maybe I need to configure it. And we're going to launch some arrays. Yeah. Cool. Let's go. Okay, cool. So, right now what we're going to see is how this code actually gets executed with an empty array. So we can press this button. It goes into the function. Right now, numbers is an empty array. We initialize total. Go away. Initialize total to be 0. And then on this line, you'll see first thing, it says we're going to initialize I to 0. So you can see inside of the scope right here, I is undefined, but I will first be initialized to 0. So we initialize it to 0. So now it has the value 0. And then it will do this check. So it'll say, is 0 less than, did I do something? No. Is 0 less than numbers.length? And it's not, because the length of this array is 0. So it's actually just going to skip over this whole for loop and return the value 0. Great. Now let's see it happen with this array of many different numbers. So total initialized to 0. First thing we do is we initialize I to 0. So I gets set to 0. We can see in the scope here, it's set to 0. And then we can say, is 0 less than numbers.length, which is 5. That is true, so it's going to go into the for loop. So then we do the thing. We say total plus equals numbers at I. So I is 0. Numbers is an array. We're going to get the first value, which is 1. So we're going to add 1 into the total variable. And then when it comes back around, that's when it executes that last part of the for loop, this section here. So watch it. It's going to come around. It increments I, and then it does a check. So it increments I to 1. Now we can see in the scope I is 1, and now it does the check. Is 1 less than numbers.length? It still is, and so we can keep going. So the way to think about that is these are 3 separate sections in the for loop. They all have a purpose, and they all get executed at different times. This is always going to be the first thing that gets executed, and it only runs once. This is going to be executed on each iteration to see if it needs to repeat again, and this always gets executed at the end of every iteration. So hopefully that helps with the for loop confusion. You just fixed what my professor didn't explain to me. Yeah, you're welcome. A lot of people just gloss over this, like, and a lot of people just memorize the format for a for loop. But these things have a purpose, because what's cool is now that you know that what those three things do, you can iterate like in any direction. Like this is let's call it a default for loop where you're going from 0 to the end of an array. But now that you know what each of these things does, we could go in reverse, right? We could say, let's initialize I at numbers.length. -1, so that's going to be the first thing that gets executed is I is going to be the last value in the array. We want this to repeat while I is greater than or equal to 0. So because we're starting at the end, we're going to be decrementing all the way to 0, and instead of increasing I, we're going to decrement I. And now it's still going to work. We're just going over the array in reverse, but we're using all the mechanisms of the for loop here to do that. So you have your initialization, you have your check for every loop, and you have the assignment that happens at the end of every loop. Tacos or let tacos? Oh, sum is already defined in Python. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so basically, right here, you can do as much as you want before that semicolon. And what you could also do, which actually wouldn't make any sense, but I believe you can just do something like this. Let's see what happens when we run the code. Oh yeah, let's not do that either. We might have introduced an infinite loop. Yeah, I think we introduced an infinite loop. Let me just see real quick. What? Yeah. So, for some reason, because we don't have a check here, it like defaults to true. That's pretty weird, but basically, I mean, you could do this if you really wanted to. But yeah. And actually, I'm going to show it, like, you can iterate in reverse. We'll go back to what I had before, iterating it not in reverse. So technically, the sum doesn't care which direction you go in. So that's why we can solve this problem by adding up from the end of the array or adding up from the beginning of the array. It all works. There's like a mathematical property or something about addition that lets you do that. So let is replacing int in this situation. In Java, I haven't seen var or let. So in Java, yeah, so Java has types. Yeah, and some people might be answering this already. Yeah, let's see. Define ever forever, print hi. Empty space equals true? I don't know about that. Infinite watts. Yeah, you could replace it with a while true. Who art thou with amazing facial hair? Hello, Hallows Darkness. I'm me. I'm CJ. You've stumbled across the coding garden. We're talking about we're talking about for loops, and we're about to start talking about for each and then reduce. But we're just solving some basic coding problems. But Dylan had the question. In Java we say int, but here in JavaScript we say var let. Yeah. So in Java, not JavaScript, but Java is a statically and strictly typed language, meaning every variable you create has to have a type at the time of initialization. So in Java, this is known as an integer. It's a whole number. It doesn't have a decimal. So you use the type int. In JavaScript, we don't have ints. We basically just have variables. And variables can have any type inside of them, and the type could change, though it rarely ever does. A lot of people complain about JavaScript because you technically could change the type, but no one ever does. You just put the thing in there, and as you can see from my code, I always stays a number, total always stays a number. But basically, if you use let, you can put new values into that variable, and technically you could put other types into that variable, like strings and such, if you wanted to, but nobody does that. And yeah, so var got added to Java, but I'm sure it works similar to in C#. So in Java, you can use the var keyword, but it uses type inference. So even if you said var I equals 0, in Java it would see, oh, well, this technically is an integer, so from now on I can only be an integer, even though you use the var keyword. Yeah. And thanks for the follow, Vegan Man. And thanks for the follow, Hallows Darkness. It's the TypeScript of JS. Yeah, and so TypeScript is very similar to Java in that it introduces types into JavaScript. So in TypeScript, you would do something like this. You could say let I, which is an int, and then assign a variable to it. But in plain old JavaScript, we can't do that. And thank you for the follow, Cheesy Taco. I think we were just talking about renaming this variable to taco. Let's do it. Taco. Nice. Code still works. VJ is asking, what's the difference between triple equals and double equals? So this is another JavaScript-y thing. Some people will tell you to just always use triple equals. When you see triple equals, that's strict equality. So taco. We can see some examples here. So let's just log 1 is equal to 1. That's true because they're the same type. And so when you see triple equals, that only when you see triple equals, that compares type and value. So when it does this comparison, it's like, are they both numbers? Yes. Are they both the same value? Yes. So it's true. If you use double equals, that's loose equality. And in this case, it sees that both of them are numbers, so it just immediately compares them and they have the same value. But where loose equality comes into play is you can do something like this. You can say 1 is equal to the string 1. And that will actually return true, because with double equals, what happens under the hood is type coercion. So JavaScript will see that these two things are not the same type. It'll see that 1 is a number and this one is a string, and it'll be like, well, I'm going to help you out here, and I'm actually going to convert the string into a number and then compare them. So under the hood, it converts that to a number, then does the comparison, and then that's true. So that's loose equality. And then to bring this full circle, if we were to say 1 triple equals 1, that's false. So by doing this, this tells the JavaScript interpreter to not do type coercion. This says they must be the same type to do the comparison. So ultimately, triple equals compares type and value. Double equals compares value with the possibility of type coercion. And this is another thing that a lot of people don't like about JavaScript, but I say you'll get used to it. And there actually are rules around when types will be converted or coerced and what they'll be coerced to. So yeah, that's a thing. Let me catch up. Mahidra says, compare the equality, but triple equals compares the equality strictly, meaning 2 equals true is not true, but 2 equals 2 is true. Yes. Nice, Deadly. Thanks for hanging out. I do this every Wednesday. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the evening. It's evening where I am anyways. Does reduce, is it more faster than a for? Actually, it really depends. And one thing I read online is certain JavaScript interpreters, a for each is actually faster than a for loop. I don't know. When you're solving simple problems like this, it doesn't matter. Like, use either. You're not going to notice a difference. But yeah. And hello, Javina. Welcome. JS.bench. Yeah, if you really wanted to. I actually really wanted to learn JavaScript. Yeah. Learn we're talking about the basics. Yeah, and so people say, and this actually came from Douglas Crockford. He has a book called, what's it called? JavaScript, The Good Parts. So he wrote a book that basically says there's a lot of weird things in JavaScript, but if you only do these things, then you'll have a better time. And he says only use triple equals. I disagree. I say use double equals if it makes sense. So yeah, and hello, Agent Key. Welcome. And thanks for the follow, Daniel. Yeah, so let's refactor this thing. So we showed it with a basic for loop, and we talked about how for loops work. That was fun. Let's solve this same problem with a taco. Let's solve this same problem with a for each. Yeah, so that's the and so we're talking about books. So Douglas Crockford wrote JavaScript: The Good Parts. I'll show you a picture of it. And for a while, and for a lot of JavaScript developers, this was like their Bible, I guess you could say. JavaScript: The Good Parts. But I practice the faith of Kyle Simpson. Not really. It's not a religious thing, but he wrote a book series called You Don't Know JS, and you actually can read it for free on GitHub. So in his books, he has more of the mentality of, sure, JavaScript is weird, but you should understand all the parts of it so that you can make informed decisions about using which parts. So I really like his book series, and he actually renamed it to You Don't Know JS Yet. And actually, like, it is kind of a holy war. Like, there's a holy war of should you use triple equals versus double equals and things like that. But yeah, check out Kyle Simpson's book series. It's also good for new programmers as well. So his first book, Getting Started, actually teaches the basics of programming with JavaScript. But yeah. And then here's JavaScript, the good parts, if you want to look into it. I would say, honestly, like, read both of them and form your own opinions. Like, they're just guys. They're just guys writing codes. You're welcome, PJ. And thanks for the follow, Javina. In Java, I know stream for each takes a lot more time than a simple for each. Oh, I don't think that's the same scenario in JavaScript. Doc says if for each is faster, then something's wrong with the compiler. The thing is, it's probably an optimization that happens. But like I said, I don't really even care. I'm never writing code where it matters, anyways. Yes, Snake Wrangler, DuckDuckGo. That's my preferred search engine. Oh, cool. Yeah, thanks, Alicia. The faith. Oh, really? Heck says, I once sat next to Kyle Simpson without knowing it. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, check it out. Mahidra says, in a function, for each didn't stop when you return because it iterates through all items, but inside of a for loop you can return, it will be a stop. That's a good thing to point out about it. And we can talk about that in a second. Yeah. I'll show you what he's talking about. Yeah, so Kevin is saying we should use an emoji for our variable name. In JavaScript, you can't actually do that. You'll get a parsing error. What does it say? Invalid character. I believe in Swift you can do that. You can put emojis inside of strings though. So let's call this emojis, and if you create a string, you can put a taco in there all day long. That works. Yeah. My list of books is 10 miles long at this point. Hello, Deep Sense. Welcome. I once sat next to Homer Simpson without knowing it. Do you mean Matt Groening? But I believe it. If the speed between for and for each matters, you probably shouldn't be using JavaScript anyways. I totally agree. That's the thing. Like, even if you have several thousand things in your array, doesn't matter. I've always done emojis like that, but I don't know. Hello, Nar. Welcome. All right, but let's solve this with a for each. Okay. I like that we called it taco, but it could be confusing for people. So I'm also going to write it with the name total. There's two versions of it, but I'm going to show you how we can take this for loop, which is a loop that goes from 0 to the end of the array, and we're going to write this with a for each instead. So for each is a higher order method built into the array prototype. What does that mean? It means every array you create, you can use this for each function. So if you look at it on MDN, array.prototype.forEach, basically any array you create, an array is like, think of it as a list of values. So we have multiple values. We use brackets to denote that we are now defining an array with the values A, B, and C inside of it. You can see here that we're defining an array with numbers inside of it. You can mix and match. People usually don't, but you can if you really wanted to. But for each is the thing we're talking about now. So for each is interesting because it allows you to pass it a function, and it will then invoke that function on every single value inside of the array. So let's watch it happen. So right here, we're going to say numbers.forEach, and then we define a function. Now, a second ago, when we were talking about HelloWorld, we talked about all these different functions. Like you have your function declaration, which allows you to call it before it's defined. You have your function expression, which can't be called before it's defined. And that's just using the function keyword. In JavaScript, you can, the latest JavaScript, you can also use arrow functions, which have even more implications, meaning you can write them on a single line. But regardless, any of these ways of writing a function, you can pass into this for each. I'm going to do it the arrow function way. And so we have a function that's going to get access to each number in the array. And one thing I'll do really quick, is really just as let's backtrack. Just as a comparison, we can take this for loop version, and instead of just directly accessing the value inside of the array, so that's what this is doing. This is saying get the value inside of the array at I and then add it to total. First, we could put it in a variable. Like there's nothing stopping us from just saying like, we could say like value equals numbers at I, and then increase total by value. And you can see it still works. It still adds it all together. But now we have this nice little variable. And basically, that's kind of what's happening when you use a for each. So if we convert this to a for each, we can say numbers for each, we're going to create a function that gets access to each individual value and then does something with it. And really all we got to do is take the code we were doing in the for loop and do that instead. And now this will work exactly the same way. But basically what happens is this function gets invoked for each value inside of the array. So think about this as, it's like we're not calling this function ourselves. We're defining this function, and JavaScript is going to invoke it for us. So, I mean, like, technically, we could even put this in a variable. We could say, like, add to total. Total? Put in a variable like that, and then we could pass this function add to total into for each. And basically what's happening is add to total, this function that we defined under the hood, JavaScript invokes it for each one of these values. And then that in turn modifies total. Yeah, so for is a keyword in JavaScript, and we talked about it earlier. Like, you have these 3 sections, and it's defined in that way. You can kind of do anything you want inside of it. For each is a method on arrays. So because numbers is an array, it has this for each function that we can call. It's kind of like predefined for us that we can use. Yeah, and so that's a good point in terms of why const is here as well. Let's actually, I want to show it, like, I want to show it multiple times with multiple different ways so you can compare, because they're all doing the same thing. Yeah, so let me catch up just a little bit. Swift is for phone, Apple. Yeah, so Swift is for iOS for sure. A lot of more recent code uses classes. Like, before hooks were introduced in React, you defined class components with the class keyword. But it's not really a thing to do anymore. But you definitely can do object-oriented programming in JavaScript and use the class keyword. Yeah. Yeah, well, this problem comes from Code Wars. I'll link it really quick. It's called Sum Arrays, this one. So if you want to give it a try, there it is. Yeah, an array of sunshine. Then why can't I use map everywhere like for each? So there are different implications. So here's the thing. With for each, the only thing it does is it calls your function for every value in the array. That's all it's going to do. Like, ultimately, this doesn't return anything. So, like, if I try to get the return value, it's just undefined. Like, it doesn't return anything. So for each is explicitly for invoking a function on each value in an array. Nothing gets returned. There's that. With map, the result of map is a new array. So map returns an array of the same length. I'll try to find a 7Q that's a map problem. Snake Wrangler is saying, I'm going to a web design camp next week. Their preliminary work had so many emojis in the description that I started using emojis in the code I turned in as revenge. You know what? If they're anything like me, they're probably going to like it, because like I like emojis in code, so that's a thing. That's a great point, Deep Sense. I can talk about that in a second, but if you look at the documentation for each, you not only get the current value, you also get the index. So if you really wanted to use the index, you actually do get access to it. Right there. And so if we log this inside of here, we'll see 0, 1, 2, 3, because when it gets invoked, that is the index. The first parameter is the actual value itself. If we log this, not that, we see 1, 5.2, 4, 0, -1. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, so the difference between for and for each, for is like a keyword, and you can really do anything you want inside of it. For each is built into arrays. And then we get to client telephone's question. Why is the const allowed inside of the for loop? Is it getting destroyed on each recreated iteration? Yes, so both const and let have block scope. And so really, it doesn't matter that much for this scenario, but that's actually what's happening here. So a block is anything with curly braces. And so because this for loop has curly braces here, this variable value only exists when that inside of that for loop is executing, and it only lives inside of that block scope. The moment the code like goes back around to increment I, that block scope is gone and it creates a new block scope. And what's also happening is because we have let I equal 0 here, this is actually I is block scoped to inside of the for loop, technically. So we could do things inside of here that get access to that value of I, whereas if you're using var, other things would happen. But that's a little bit beyond what we're talking about. But yes, this is block scoped, and on each iteration, there's a new block. And we can actually show that really quick. I could debug it, and I'll show you. The debugger shows you where the block scopes are. So let's do this. I'm going to disable Quokka, and we're going to set a breakpoint right here. Actually, let's do that. Let's go. Numbers is an empty array, but I want to show you with the full array. So now numbers is that array with like 1, 5.2, 4, etc. So we're going to go in. You can see this shows you local scope. So local scope is function scope. So it's the scope of the function. And right now, total is a variable that's only accessible inside of this function. So that's local scope. Global scope is the scope of everything. So that's all the other stuff. But once we go into this this for loop, you notice that there's now a block scope. So for this block scope, we have a variable I that gets defined. It's 0. And then we have this other variable value that's inside of this block. And you'll notice it's a separate block. So this value is gonna get assigned. It gets the value 1. We increment total by value. That block scope will actually go away. So it no longer exists. And then I will increment. Well, actually, we'll check. We'll do the check. Is I less than numbers dot length? Then I will, if it is, oh, I pressed the wrong thing. But basically, a new block scope gets created every time, and you can actually see it get created and go away on the left-hand side there. All right, let's keep catching up. We're just talking about codes. The drop game is basically if you land here, you grow a little seedling. And Anaboth with a 98.86. Great work, Anaboth. 4 is 5% faster than 4H. Okay. Yeah, I'm using Quokka. And I really only use it for code Katas. I don't really use it at work or like in my daily coding. And actually, to do that, you need to get the pro version, because if you import your own modules, then you have to have the pro version. But I use it for like demonstrating code like this. This is the thing. Quokka is the thing that runs the console logs and such. Yeah. And then Wallaby is test files. But Jest has a really good plugin for VS Code that works very similar to Wallaby, which I've used on stream before. It's pretty sweet. Does map use multi-threading like in Python? No. So in pretty much all, I mean, there might be some out there that aren't, but for the most part, JavaScript is single-threaded, meaning there's really only one line of code executing at any given time. When you do a map, they're really being executed one after another, and basically each call to that function is getting pushed onto the call stack one at a time. You can do some like asynchronous things like a promise.all, which will call multiple promises in the background, and then they could be starting up a thread or something. We have no idea. But when they return, you can get access to the values. But even with promise.all, the array of promises is executed sequentially, like one after the other. They could finish at different times, but they're still executed like one at a time. Yeah, and I can show this with a reduce, definitely. We could use a for of, too. And thanks for the follow, Ben Jack. Good morning, Ashwin. Yeah. Yeah, I tried Wallaby a while back when I did... I believe that's when I did, like, the 1Q functional SQL problem. But, yeah. Yeah, single-threaded. What languages do I code and which do I stream? I mainly just code and stream in JavaScript. So I'm a full-time software engineer, and I do full-stack JavaScript. I write back-end applications. I write applications that talk to databases, all with JavaScript. I write front-end applications, mainly with JavaScript. And thanks for the follow, JavaAnimal. Javanable? Should I learn full stack or just if you're new to everything, just focus on JavaScript. Like learn the fundamentals of the language and how to program with it, and then you can start branching it out into building front end things with it and potentially building back end things with it. But a good foundation in the language itself is really going to help. Yeah, I mean technically you can just start doing anything, but you might get fairly confused. If you don't want A to be destroyed or reinitialized each iteration. So it won't actually be reinitialized each iteration. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Yeah. Because then that would define it in the outer scope. Dang it. I should probably just buy share mouse, but this thing just broke. Let me fix that really quick. I'll be right back. So I'm using that program to share my mouse on my MacBook with my Windows streaming computer, and sometimes it messes up. So yeah, that's the thing. You should learn about hash maps, similar to objects. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about JavaScript is the built-in object. You can just do so many things with. Like, you could use it as a set. You can... It's just so cool and dynamic, and it basically is just a hash map. Oh no, like you can absolutely write games with JavaScript. Like having multiple threads might be useful, but I mean, you can look at this. I mean, the pizza maker game, Word Garden. The backend is running JavaScript. The backend is the backend is written in JavaScript using Socket.io, and it is single-threaded. Just because something is single-threaded doesn't mean you can't do things fast or can't do multiple things. And like this is managing multiple players all connected to the server, and it's still just a single thread. So you definitely could create games. All right, we're gonna use reduce. We're gonna get there. Oh yeah, I use Node. When you delete a comment in your live comment program, they re-render everything or above that comment, or just remove that one. It just removes that one. Yeah. I think this is a joke. CJ, yeah, I know a lot of JS, but if I delete this one, it's just gonna remove that one like that. No, I don't mean TypeScript. Yeah, there are while loops, and actually, we could solve this with a while loop. Thanks for trying share mouse. So if I'm familiar already with front and back end development, I should be fine to learn full stack. Yeah, so like if you know the parts and the pieces and how they relate, absolutely. So an async function is basically creating a sort of array to store all of the fetched items and waiting till they're stored and returned. I mean, I wouldn't think about it like that. There in JavaScript, there's this thing called the event loop. And things happen at different times, and promises are known as... I believe microtasks, and they'll get executed. But in Node.js, technically, like you can have things that do spin up a new thread, and they can do things in the background. But ultimately, when they're finished, they'll return the results to the main thread. That's definitely possible. But you want to learn more about this async stuff. Learn about the event loop, and there's two really good videos on YouTube. This one, what the heck is the event loop, anyways? And then this one. In the loop. Both of these are amazing videos. They're, I think, no longer than, yeah, they're both about 30 minutes long. But this describes basically how JavaScript executes and how it works as a single-threaded runtime. I think this is the other link. Yeah, check it. Check it. Yeah, and I just saw somebody mention service workers. Technically, service workers can do things in the background as well, but similarly, if they need to do something in the UI, they have to call back to the main thread to do something with it. XML HTTP request. Objects are great. You're not going to write AAA games with JavaScript, but you can make... That's true. I guess that's true. Oh yeah, the break timer definitely isn't on. Thank you, Alicia. There we go. Yeah, so there's worker threads in the off-screen canvas API. So you could like render to a canvas in a background thread, and then when you need to show it in the UI, potentially like send it over. Yeah. So Node is single-threaded, but you can spin up separate threads or separate processes. You could create Grand Theft Auto in JavaScript? Maybe. Oh, yeah, I know. I was just... Somebody asked about deleting messages, which is why I deleted that one. We do have do-while loop. Actually, I want to show both of those. I want to show a while loop and a do-while loop in our solution here. Are comments in an array or an object? I don't know. What do you mean by that? Worker threads, yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, client telephone. Hopefully I'm doing them justice. I'm sending you off to other resources to learn more, but I'm telling you at least what I can. And thanks for the follow, Sir Emperor. Service workers, yeah. My YouTube channel is Coding Garden with CJ. There's a link below the live stream, and that's where you see these red messages. Those are coming from YouTube. Yeah, thank you, Shaggy. It varies. I'm gonna stream Friday morning. That's gonna be a morning tea Q&A session. So I will be answering more questions. If you go to qa.coding.garden. You can submit questions here. Right now, I believe the Twitch login is broken, but you can use the other logins or you can just do it anonymously. But you can ask questions here. People can upvote them. And on Friday, I do my best to answer them and provide code examples and such. Yep. Interesting. I'm not going to click it. We're in too deep. We got to solve these problems. And what's up, Aaron? Hello. Yeah, you'll see my break timer go off. In 12 minutes, it'll remind me to take a break. And thanks for the follow, Kai Likes Linux. That is true. So Unity has like JScript, I think they might call it, where you can write games with it, and there have been AAA games written with it. That said, I believe that JavaScript code gets transpiled or compiled into something else, so it's not necessarily a JavaScript runtime. I don't really know though. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, and I mean, focus on Java. Like, eventually, if you ever do start doing web development or you start building backends with Node, this JavaScript stuff will help. And also, it's good to know other styles of programming languages, because Java is very object-oriented and, like, class-based. They recently have introduced lambdas and stuff like that, but JavaScript, at least in my experience, lends itself more to like functional programming. You still can do object-oriented stuff, but it makes you think about your programs differently when you can just start passing functions around. So yeah. My comment manager, oh, it stores them in an array. My live comments, yeah, these are an array. Yeah. Oh no, red is YouTube. Hey, what's up, Florin? How's it going? I'm trying C++ because I've heard it's a great language for game dev, but I might poke around JavaScript for website design. Yeah, you might try C#. So Unity uses C#. C++ is just so low level. Like, I mean, there are new programmers that start out in C++, but I think it's just so low level. Like, it can be pretty, be pretty, what's the word? Like, discouraging for new programmers. If that's like your first language and you're trying to write games in it, but I mean, it's still possible. It's going pretty good. We're just answering questions. Hello. A lot of people use Unity. There's a lot of JScript isn't a thing in Unity anymore. Okay. And Izzy says most people are using C#. A Grand Theft Auto game mode in JavaScript? Yeah. I live in Denver, Colorado. A lot of people who mod GTA use Lua. Yeah, I've tried Lua a couple times. It's interesting. I mainly just do JavaScript. Before JavaScript, I did C# for like over 5 years, and in college I did like Java, C++, and C and stuff like that. But these days, it's mainly just JavaScript. From Unity to WebAssembly. Cool. All right, I think we're almost caught up. What's up, Alka? Oh, nice, Kai. I have not done any Rust, but I've been meaning to try. Yeah, all right, what were we doing? we were solving this sum problem with a for each. So we did that. Mahidra mentioned earlier that you also get access to the index. You technically also get access to the array, which is the array that you're calling for each on. So inside of here, array is the same thing as numbers. So for each is cool that way. I really just showed it like this to try to drive home the fact that with a for each, you're passing it a function reference. Like this is a reference to a function. You're not invoking that function. You're saying, hey, JavaScript, here's this function. Please invoke it on each value in the array. And it does just that. And our code still works. Let me show it both ways, though. So, like, you could do that. Most of the time, people just define it in line like this. Boop. And in JavaScript, parameters to a function are actually optional. So we can put those on there, but we're not using them. And since we're not using them, you typically just leave them off anyways. So we can do that. Yeah. In Colorado Springs, very cool. May I am assuming uses Rust? Interesting. For await of, yeah, so like async iterators, those are interesting. Cool. All right. Before we move on, we're gonna do a reduce. So a reduce is another higher order function that actually returns something. So in this case, I showed you a second ago, like a for each doesn't return anything. Like we could try to store the result in a variable, but it's just undefined. There's nothing in there, right? No, I told you, Mahidra mentioned the index, but you can also take the array. I gave you credit. You calm down. Oh, nice, Deadly. I'm glad you're learning some stuff. Kai says, I usually have 2 Arch VMs and a FreeBSD VM and an Ubuntu server installed on my Raspberry Pi. Whoa! I guess the Pi 4 is pretty powerful, so it can do that. That's pretty sweet. Okay, let's talk about reduce. So like I said, for each doesn't return anything. Reduce does. Now, I've been streaming about an hour and a half. I think I want to do like 1 or 2 more katas. So we're not going to get too in depth to the reduce, but ultimately it works like this. So you can say numbers.reduce, and this too accepts a function. So it accepts a function that's going to get access to the value and then do something with it. And it accepts an initial value. So with reduce, it's doing this thing called the accumulator pattern. You're basically accumulating up a variable. And even when we didn't use reduce, this is still technically the accumulator pattern because we take a value that has an initial value and then we accumulate to it. We're adding on to it. Like in this scenario, the accumulation is just a summing a variable, but there are other accumulations that you could do. So this is technically the accumulator pattern, and our initial value is 0. So with reduce, our initial value is 0, and with reduce, you pass in the initial value as the second parameter. So first parameter is the function that's going to be called on each value, and the second parameter is the initial value. And in our case, that was our initial value. So now we can get rid of that. And ultimately, this entire reduce is just going to return the total. So we can actually just say return numbers.reduce. The initial value is 0. And then our reducer function takes in 1 extra parameter, and the first parameter is the accumulator. This is the thing that we are accumulating, and in this case, we're accumulating total, right? So we'll call this variable total. And then after that, we get access to the value itself, we get access to the index, we get access to the array, all that other stuff that you get with like for each, but the key is that first value there. And then we can do the same thing we've been doing. We can modify total. But what you need to do is at the end of every reduce is you return the accumulator, because in the next iteration and the next time this function gets invoked, the return value of this function gets passed in as the initial parameter or initial argument. So if we return total right here, now on each iteration, it's going to add the value into total, return total, and then the next time the function is invoked, total is going to have the latest value. And then it'll do it again, return total, and then total is going to have that new value that we just added onto it. So this is the same problem solved using a reduce. And we could write it even shorter because you'll notice right here, like, well, total plus equals value is the same thing as saying total equals total plus value, right? And really, what if we just return that? What if we just return total plus value? Same thing, still works. And now that we're here, we talked about this earlier with functions. We have a single line of code, so we don't need the curly braces or the return statement. So we could just do this. Like that. And like I mentioned earlier, the arguments are optional, so we can just do that. And now we have a sum using reduce. If you're totally new to all of this, this might not make any sense at all. But ultimately, every single one of these functions we wrote, they're all doing the same thing. They're just doing it in different ways. And one thing I'll show really quick. Okay, here, Doc has a comment. So another way of explaining it is, if you have an array 1, 2, 3, 4, and some function f, the reduce is written like function, accumulate. Yeah, I mean, this is still confusing, Doc. Yeah, divided equals and times equal do exist as well. No, I think I need to get my key puller and actually just ordered some compressed air to clean out this keyboard, because the T key, it gets stuck. Sometimes I get a double T. There really isn't a downside to reduce. Sometimes it's just clarity. So if you're a developer that doesn't know about the reduce function and doesn't know what it does, this line of code can actually be very confusing, right? Yeah, like if you've never used reduce before, you might look at this and be like, what's happening here? And so a lot of teams might actually prefer that you don't solve it with reduce. You actually solve it with a for each or a for loop instead, because the code is a little bit more clear. Like there's less cognitive load whenever another developer comes across that line of code. But yeah. Daniel's saying, it took me a while to grasp reduce, probably the most confusing function in JavaScript. Yeah. Cool. Doc says reduce is sort of like replacing the commas in the list with f. Yeah, and so I mean that is what's happening. So you have a function that has the initial value. I feel like if you understand functional programming, this might actually make sense, because you're invoking each one. But let's actually, before we move on to the next problem, I want to show reduce with a debugger, so we can show like what's happening on each iteration. So we're gonna stop that right there. Comment that one out, and let's debug it. So basically what I'm going to demonstrate, wait, let's catch up. Yeah, so 0 is the initial value, exactly. So in the cases where we solved it without reduce, we just put that initial value in a variable. But in this case, reduce allows us to pass in the initial value, and that's going to be the first value that's passed in when the function is invoked. If you leave this off, it technically will still work, but that's because it uses the first value in the array. You may not always want that, though, because a lot of times you might be reducing to an object or reducing to an array. Like, you don't always have to reduce to a number. You can reduce to many different things. And if that's the case, you definitely want to define your initial value. Mount, filter, and reduce animated. Let's look at it. Yeah, anybody can post links. Oh, yeah, check that link out. Here, I'll share it on YouTube as well. Okay. Oh yeah, I wanted to show this thing debugging. So basically, the fact that we return total every time becomes the new value when the function is invoked again. So I want to show that. Pop quiz. What function with reduce returns the original array? If you overwrite the reduce prototype on the array to just return this, I don't know. What are you talking about? Wait, are we adding emotes? What's happening? I missed the side chatter. Oh, okay. Alka is oh, what? Wait, is that a thing? What just happened? I don't know. Okay, let's debug this. So what I want to show is this function getting invoked with the latest value of total every time. So let's debug it. Let's go. So first iteration, and when the function first gets invoked, numbers is that array of numbers. We added easy and clap. Sweet. Let's take a quick stretch. This is my break timer that we were mentioning earlier. I mean, did you add the InstaFluff emote to my Frankerface channel? Is that what happened? Oh, just easy and clap. Okay, cool. I need to. I might actually do that after this. Like we talked about functions. We talked about for each reduce. I might just integrate Frankerface global emotes and my channel emotes after this, and then I'm gonna go. That's what we're gonna do. We've learned enough for today. Okay, so numbers is the array, and now reduce is gonna get invoked. So we'll go into it. And initially, total is 0. So remember, we passed in total as the initial value. So total is 0. Value is 1, because that's the first value in the array. I is 0, because that's the index. And then array is the whole array itself. So we say total plus equals value. For me, it is 8:11 p.m. So total plus equals 1. Now total has the value 1. We're going to go back around. The function's going to be invoked again, but this time total is going to be whatever was returned. So we're going to go back around. The function gets invoked, and total has the value 1. So this is really the key to reduce right here. Whatever we return is going to be the first parameter the next time the function is invoked. So we get 1. We're going to add 5.2 to it. That should give us 6.2. We're going to go back around. It's going to get called again, and total is going to be 6.2. So that's really what I wanted to show. And just because we're talking about it, I'll show you reduce without numbers. This might blow your mind if you've never seen this before, but I use this all the time. So let's say we have an array of objects. No, let's do this. We're going to reduce an array of numbers to be an object with each number as the key and the number of occurrences of that number. That's what we're going to do. 1Q for next Wednesday? I'm about it. If I'm prepared, like if we talk about it now, I could do a 1Q next Wednesday. Okay, let me do this really quick. So let's say we have our array of numbers. I'm just going to write this in line. So I'm going to say result equals 1, 1, 6, 3, 8, 5, 5, 1, 12, 9, 3, 7. Okay, so we have this array. And what we want to do in under an hour? Yeah, let's do it. 1Q. I'm ready. Let's do it. So what I want to do is I don't want to sum these numbers up with reduce. I want to use reduce to turn this into an object where the keys are the numbers and the values are the counts. So we should see a key 1 with the value 2 because there's 2 1s in there. We should see the key 6 with the value 1 because there's 1 6 in there. So we're going to reduce this. Our accumulator is going to be called counts, and we're going to get access to each individual value. Let's do this so it's easier to see. Our initial value for the reduce is going to be an object like that. And then we can say counts at value. I'm going to do like a little shorthand thing here. This might be confusing too, but it equals itself or it equals 0. And then we take that section or that property inside the object, increment it, and then we return counts. Okay, but now look what we've got. We have reduced this array into an object. Let's start up Paka. So now we have this object where the key 1 has the value 2, and the key 3 has the value 2, and the key 5. So there are 2 of each of those, and there's 1 of all of these. So reduce isn't just for summing numbers together. That's basically what I wanted to show with this. Like we could use reduce to create an object that does certain thing or that has certain properties about it. But mainly what's happening is on each iteration, we're returning that object, right? So the initial value is there, and then we're just returning it every time. So that allows us to modify it and reassign certain properties on it. So that's a thing. Okay. Now I'm going to... Oh no, my screen just turned off. That's unfortunate. Yeah, reduce is always, okay, it's back. That's good. Reduce is always the order of the array. Is that built into Python? Something called enumerate? Does it just do what I just did? That's not it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so it's not built into JavaScript, but that's how you would solve it with JavaScript. Yeah, and so Alicia's mentioning it, but on Code Wars, 8Q is the easiest. Those are the couple that we just did, but they get very hard. And I've only done 1Q before. But next week, we'll try it next week. And yeah, so reduce is always the order of the array. One thing I was going to demonstrate, I'm not going to now, but I'll just show you that it exists, is there is reduce right. So reduce right, I just spelled it with 2 T's. Is the same thing as reduce, but it goes in reverse. So it goes from the end of the array to the beginning instead of the beginning of the array to the end. Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, I'll show you really quick with Quokka. So once you've installed Quokka, if you do Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P, and then search for Quokka start on current file, that'll start it up, and it'll show you all of your console logs. I need to study all week. Yeah, sorry I missed your question, Sean. Oh yeah, probably. Memes is saying, how hard would you consider front-end design is? Is there any recommended resources to get better at it? And how did you learn, or rather get better at it? I just learned by doing. And I mean, I am truly a full stack developer. So at my job, we have a designer, we have a project manager. They figure things out, they come up with mock-ups for the products that we're building. I take those high-fidelity mock-ups, which have been styled, and some of them have like interactions described on them, and I take those and I implement them with front-end web code. And then I implement the back-end code that creates, like, basically create APIs for the front-end to talk to, and those APIs in turn talk to a database that I designed. And it's all deployed on the webs, and I do all of that. But part of my job is to take designs that other people have designed and actually implement them with front-end code. I don't really do much designing myself. I just take pre-created designs and implement them. And where to start? There's YouTube channels. Definitely check out Design Course on YouTube. Old Gary, check him out. He's almost to 500k subs, but he has tons of really good videos on just like UI design in general. So check him out. There's DevEd, who also talks about design. Like all of these people I'm mentioning are worlds better than I am at like coming up with an initial design that has like nice colors and things like that. I'm only like halfway decent at it. I usually depend on someone else and then I implement their design. But definitely check out DevEd too. And I think both of these guys have Udemy courses that you can purchase. Who else? Anybody have other design resources? But really, the answer is just practice. Just practice and get better at it. I don't know. All right, where are we at? This is a MacBook. Yeah, I'm using a 2015 MacBook Pro. The hardest for me is understanding what the problem is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have no problem explaining that really quick. Let's go back to that. Basically, what this is doing is this. We're saying if counts at value is a thing, then we're going to say... well, actually, really what we're saying is if counts at value is not a thing, meaning it doesn't exist yet, counts at value will initially be set to 0. And then after that, now we know that it has a value, we increment it. So this if statement right here is doing the same thing as this or statement. So what this is saying is set counts at value equal to itself, but if counts at value doesn't exist yet, set it equal to 0. So this is basically doing what that was doing. And this, if you're not familiar with bracket notation on objects, it's really saying if value in counts. We're saying if value is not in counts. So this is a way of saying, does this property exist on this object? The shorthand for that is to just do that, because ultimately if it doesn't, this is going to return undefined, and then we not it, which if it's undefined and we not it, that becomes true. So we're using like truthy falsy with yeah, there's a lot going on there, but ultimately that just says if it doesn't exist, set it to 0. Oh, meant the result. It showed 135 instead of 1. What do you mean? I don't really know what you're asking, Ember. It definitely goes from left to right, if that's what you're asking, but the accumulator is going to be different every time because that's the return value from the previous iteration. We were solving katas. Now we're about to work on my chat overlay. Yep. Every time I do a kata that has like 4 paragraphs, it takes like 30 minutes to figure out what they're asking. It's the truth. Like if you've ever seen me try to solve them, like one of the initial things is just trying to figure out what they're asking. But yeah. Okay. We saved that. Did I submit it on Code Wars? I did. Final submission. Gideon's asking, when am I going to collab with Dan Schiffman again? Pretty soon, actually. We were chatting on Discord, and he's going to call into my show, and we're probably going to build a Discord bot, but I don't know when. Might be next week. I'll let you know. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah. Full snack. Yeah, I did say full snack. A one-man shop. Yeah. Definitely. My favorite front-end framework is definitely Vue.js, but I actually use React on a daily basis. But I run the Denver Vue.js meetup. I like Vue. Vue is fun. What's up, Ken? Welcome. What would you say is the difference between UX and graphic design? So UX, and hello, Alex. UX is user experience. So user experience is all about how a user interacts with your website. So how they get from one screen to another, how they interact with the buttons, where those buttons are on the screen. Like user experience is the experience of the user. Graphic design could be just like digital graphics. It could literally be like a logo design or different things like that. Graphic designers also might actually implement website mockups, but those mockups that they create might not have actually had any sort of user experience thought put into them. They might have actually just said, okay, the title bar goes up here, the hero goes here, the buttons go here, without actually thinking about how a user will interact with that website. So the difference is UX is all about the user's perspective. Graphic design is all about digitally designing that thing. I guess. I don't know. I don't know anything. Why do you ask me these questions? Yeah, check out Traversy Media too. I don't know if he has as much on actual like web design, or like design in general, because that's kind of what I got from the question that was asked earlier, is like design, because you can build websites without being a web designer. You could just use Bootstrap to implement your UIs, and not actually know anything about actual like design or colors or what looks good or fonts or anything like that. But yeah, definitely check out Traversy. I'm sure he has something along the lines of just general web design. Yeah. 2015 MacBook Pro sticker edition. Yeah, the sticker edition. I use DuckDuckGo for the most part. Sometimes DuckDuckGo fails me, and so I jump out to Google, but I use mostly DuckDuckGo. Oh, in terms of the code, that's because I know these things really well. I've taught people before, so I know it's internalized. But I do use Google, and I do search things like all the time. And you might have seen me using the Mozilla Developer Network to search for things. I'll go here instead of Google first, like to read, if it exists, like to read the documentation for each, or read the documentation for reduce. And if I can't find it there, then I'll Google it or DuckDuckGo it and potentially go to like Stack Overflow or something. But absolutely, I don't know everything. There's so many things I don't know. So many things. When to use them? Yeah, it's true. What is CORS and why is the browser blocking HTTP requests from other domains? CORS is cross-origin resource sharing. It's a security feature. Like, it wouldn't be safe if randomwebsite.com could add script to the page that makes a request to supersecurebank.com. Like, you wouldn't want that to happen because randomwebsite.com could add some malicious code that whenever you go there, it deducts all the money from your bank account by contacting random or like supersecurebank.com and taking the money out of your account and putting it into your account. So it's a security feature of the browser to prevent one origin from requesting resources from another unless it's explicitly allowed. Creating the incrementation? Incrementation? Do you mean... It's creating the initial value. This part here, I think that's what you might be asking about. If it doesn't exist, it sets it to 0 so that it can be incremented. Because if we didn't initially set it to 0, then we would be saying like undefined plus plus. Yeah. Hopefully I answer your question, Alex. Let me know. It's true, Mahidra. I just haven't found the time lately, and it's fun to just hang out. I don't know. I'm not trying to get 1 million subs. Like, with this kind of content, it's probably not possible. I don't know. Not anytime soon, anyways. And hello, Scripties. Welcome. Okay, console log result has 1, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2. So the keys are in order numerically. I was wondering why it wasn't 1. Oh, okay. So in JavaScript, and this actually does depend on it depends on the JavaScript engine. Technically, I actually would have thought that we would have seen 6 first. So let me do that. I'm actually going to run the code with Node and see if we see the same thing. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. It could be the last time they were accessed. So I would see like 1 gets added, then it gets overwritten. 6 gets added, then 3, then 8, then 5, then 5 gets overwritten, so we would see it sooner. Yeah, whoa! Hey, Mastermind with the raid. Thanks so much. We're talking about JavaScript. And welcome to the Coding Garden. I'm 6 minutes behind on chat right now, so I apologize. Your chat messages are way up there. We'll get to you soon. But you have found yourself at the Coding Garden. This is our Wednesday show called Code Katas. And if you're not familiar with Code Katas, they're super fun, super cool. If you go to codewars.com, they have code problems of many different difficulties. And in my experience, these are a lot more approachable than things like Leak Code or some of those other problem-solving sites you've seen. And they range in difficulty all the way from 8Q, which is the easiest, all the way up to 1Q, which is the hardest. And they have many different languages. So I typically solve them with JavaScript, but I think you all were learning Python today. Is that a thing? You can use Python on this website as well and solve them with Python. And they have lots of different problems. It's super fun. We're reaching the end of that, though. We literally spent, I don't know, 30 minutes just talking about a HelloWorld function and the different ways to do it in JavaScript. And we talked about arrow functions and without return. And then we just talked about summing an array. And we just showed like 20 different ways to do it and what it all means. And we were talking about reduce just now. But welcome to the show. Good to have you here. Oh yeah. And we were just talking about what's happening on this line of code, which basically assigns the value into the object if it doesn't exist. Whereas if you used a single OR, then is that like bit shifting? I don't know. Doc knows a lot of arcane things, but yeah. Katas? Yeah, CM Griffin, he's working on Stream Parrot, which is, he's actually selling it as a service. So I have my stream overlay here, but it's really just for me, because not many other people stream on both YouTube and Twitch, but yeah. Given the input X, how do you write the steps to get output Y? I don't know. How do you? I mean, technically it is. It is a dictionary. It is an object with keys and values, so yeah. And thanks for the raid, Mastermind. Let's see. A little design theory goes a long way. Yeah, so definitely check out all those channels we mentioned earlier. So some people in the chat asked earlier, What are some resources for getting good at web design? And I'm actually not that great at web design. Like I'm really good at front end coding, and if given some design, I can implement it. But actually designing a web page and the color palette and choosing the fonts, I'm not very good at that. So I recommended DevEd, Design Course. There's some YouTube channels to check out. And then Tech Guy Web is Traversy Media. Doesn't necessarily have design stuff, but tons of programming resources if you haven't heard of them. Yeah, definitely. Refactoring UI is good. Design for Hackers is a really good book to check out. Yeah, I don't really know of any courses to link to. And thanks for the raid, Mastermind. Much appreciated. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for the follow, Exquisite Media. Welcome. See you later. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for coming by. Welcome, all raiders. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, hopefully my explanation of what we're doing helped. What I'm actually about to do is start working on my chat overlay, though. So usually Wednesday is the Code Katas stream. That's where we'll solve katas. Today we did super basic ones. We did like a hello world. We did a sum arrays, and we talked about all the many different ways to do it. We also talked about like what is a for loop and what are these different parts of a for loop and how does that work and how does for each work. We got into like the details of how this stuff works. But next week we're actually going to do a very hard problem. So these 1Qs, these can take me like 2 to 3 hours to solve, and we're going to try to do one of them next week. So that'll be fun. And thanks for the follow, Sam2 Afriye. Welcome. 6-minute delay because of weather conditions. Coding Game is better than Code Wars. True or false? I think they're different as far as I'm aware. Actually, is this? Oh, that's this thing. Maybe. Yeah, if I go to practice, puzzles, choose one, solve it. They're different. They're both useful, though. Like, as someone that's just learning to program, both of these are great resources because it just gives you practice, different types of problems to try and solve. So, yeah. I knew I was 6 minutes behind because of the timestamp on the chats. And thanks for the follow, Charles Decode. Yeah, no worries. Wish me the best of luck. I have no software development experience, just a little JavaScript and good HTML and CSS, and I have an interview tomorrow with a big company. Good luck, Dark Hunter. Be confident in your abilities. Don't. Here's my advice. Don't BS. Don't BS your way through anything. Like, people are gonna know. So like, you know what you know. Tell them what you know. Don't try to be anything that you're not. You'll do fine. JavaScript hurts my brain. And Succotash, yeah, design course on YouTube for sure. Cool ATG, thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow, J Wildman. I left Mastermind open on my computer and now I'm here. You're a mod on the channel, and you're a mod on my channel, Andrew. You didn't have my channel open? What are you doing? You're slacking off. I'm just kidding. You can watch whatever Twitch channels you want. Will I be doing a DOM manipulation course or video soon? I didn't really plan on it, but I do have some more recent videos on my channel you can check out. So if you go to Coding Garden with CJ on YouTube, and you look at the Seedling School live lessons, the API requests video, this one right here, I actually do show some DOM manipulation. So like how we create, we also call an API, but once we get the data back, we create elements, we add them to the page. So you can check that one out. My theory of sorting access by the list doesn't work. Yeah, I don't know. So ultimately, it comes down to the JavaScript engine, and they can actually do whatever they want. So lesson here is don't depend on the order of the keys in the object. So actually, like if we log right here, object.keys of the result, it's in this order, which you might not have expected. So you can't depend on the order of the keys. I'll say that. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew has his drink bot. Reminds me to drink. And hello, Code with Dinesh. Welcome. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, DFlare. I use DuckDuckGo as much as I can. Like, a lot of times I actually can't find what I'm looking for. So I'll switch over to Google, but I do prefer it. Leak code is cool, I guess. Like I've only tried it once, on stream too, and the problem was asking about like a binary search tree and it's been so long since I've done like computer science type stuff. We spent like 20 minutes just talking about binary search trees and not actually solving it. I don't know. I'll say this. If you're applying for a job that is computer science heavy, or really if you're applying at any of the FANG companies, a site like this is great. If you're just trying to get better at coding and maybe learn a little bit more about the language that you're learning and coding in, I would stick with Code Wars. That's my opinion. I don't know. About the object property order, I think it's just the fact that keys with numeric indices are always first in ascending order, then the string keys in insertion order. I can go with that. I don't know. Yeah, Exorcism.io is pretty cool. I know that Mastermind.io was using that as well. Exorcism. It's really cool because they have, it's totally test driven, and they have it for multiple different languages, all these languages as well. I think I've done one like once on stream before. It's pretty cool. And thanks for the follow, One Rocket Pimp. I opened to stream on my computer, then left with my phone, and then you started streaming. Okay, Andrew, it's okay. Yeah, I'll talk about DOM manipulation at some point. Oh, cool. Yeah, so Ken Code was mentioning these two books on web design yesterday. I mentioned that I've never read them, but the covers of them are actually very, very popular. I see a lot of people mentioning these books. JavaScript and jQuery and HTML and CSS, and Ken Code likes them, so check them out. Like I said, I haven't read it myself. Yeah, no worries, scripties. Oh yeah, and then check out coding.garden/videos. I don't know if you just search for DOM, let's see. Yeah, this was like a question and answer stream. Someone asked why the virtual DOM. I don't really have... I need to do some more beginner videos on the DOM. But like I said, that's probably the only one you'll see. Jam-packed with knowledge. Thank you, Mattia. Yeah, I know, Andrew. I was just giving you a hard time. I wish there were dictionaries in JavaScript like in C#. Honestly, just use an object. So like... And I know where you're coming from, because when I was in C#, I used dictionaries like crazy. So like in C#, a dictionary will let you say something like, I want a new dictionary where, I see why you're potentially mentioning that. But because in C# you could say the keys are actually, I don't know, numbers. I don't know, integer. It's been a while since I've done C#. And the values are... I don't know, of type animal, something like that. In JavaScript, technically, you can just create a plain old object, dictionary, and if you, like, the poor man's way of doing it is saying something like dictionary at some value. Like, let's say you wanted to have objects as your keys. Technically, you could, like, JSON.stringify that. And that would become the key in the object. Though, you should check out sets, because sets, I do believe, allow you to have any value as the key and any value as the object. Oh, sorry, as the value. Check out a set. Not that, not that. This one. Lets you store unique values of any type, whether primitive values or object references. So you can initialize it with an array, but it also has the add function. Though, no, that doesn't have keys and values. I don't know. Honestly, though, I think you can make it work with just objects in JavaScript. I don't know. Is it necessary to learn data structures and algorithms for being a web developer? It really depends on the company you're trying to get a job at. I myself, I got a computer science degree, and I did other type of software development before I got into web development, but currently I don't really use any data structures or algorithms. But to get my first job, I did, and I was doing like desktop development. I don't know. Recommendation to get your first programming job without a degree? Any online certificates that don't take years to get but look good on a resume? So I taught at a coding school boot camp for like close to 3 years, and the main thing that matters for someone that doesn't have a coding degree is your portfolio. Like, honestly, certificates don't really mean anything. That said, like, if you have them, that's great. Put them on your resume. But the real thing that employers are looking for is some kind of project experience. So if you have a portfolio that has multiple different kinds of websites, it showcases your skills. The code for those projects are all on GitHub, so hiring managers can potentially look at your GitHub. That's the way to go. Nothing beats actual code, actual like working deployed websites to show that you know what you're doing. And I would spend more time working on projects than trying to get some sort of like certification. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Yeah, for sure. And that's basically what I was saying. Like, if you can show that you can write code, if you have, and a lot of people say like you don't, and some people have said you don't need a GitHub profile, but if you don't have a programming degree and you've never had a programming job before, you need a GitHub profile. You need some way of showing them that you can write code, you know what you're doing, and being able to prove that is so much better than just saying like I have this certificate that said I completed a course. But yeah. Beautiful books. Demonstratable skill. Thank you, Code with Dinesh. Wait, Deep Sense at the top of the leaderboard with a 99.45. Great work. It's still not the best. The best is 99.98, I think. But great work, Deep Sense. Thank you, Mahija. Map is a good... Oh, yeah. What am I thinking? Use a map. That's what I was thinking of. Map. Because map, I believe, will let you have keys of any type. So map.set, you can pass in the key and the value, and I believe the key can be anything. Yeah, it doesn't just have to be a string. It can be numbers as well. So yeah, check out map. I forget who asked about that, but this is kind of like your C# dictionary. Deep Sense just says they can turn off their bot. That's funny. Yeah. It's better to use maps instead of objects. No, so if you... People that are coding in Typescript, I see them using maps a lot because maps can be typed. You can actually create a map where you say that all keys have to be numbers or all keys have to be strings, whereas objects are very like loosey-goosey. So objects don't play very nice with Typescript. You have to create interfaces and things like that. No. Use objects. Only use maps if you really, really need to. And hello, Evil Pisces. Welcome. Map. That's it. Thank you, Sai. Only use... Yeah, so sets have unique values. That's true. Map is keys values and is faster and better than objects. I don't know. The syntax isn't that great, though. You have these functions you have to invoke instead of, like, bracket notation. I don't know. Yeah, so these were introduced in ES 2015, but they have pretty universal support. Like, you can look at browser compatibility. IE 11 has partial support, but all the other major browsers support it for map. Yeah, also technical communication is important too. Thanks, Mattia. So, even if you don't have if you've never gotten a programming degree before, but you're trying to get a job, a portfolio is great, but then also being a nice human. So being able to communicate about your code, being able to collaborate with others, because the real world of programming and getting a job in programming is a lot more than just programming. It's interacting and collaborating with other programmers and other product managers and designers and things like that. So that also is important. I would say so, can code. Like, for me and for a lot of my students, like the fact that it was a full-time thing, like 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, you're going somewhere to learn to code, and you're surrounded by people that are learning to code, and you're surrounded by instructors that have experience in industry. It's more of like an immersive thing rather than just learning to code, because anybody can just learn to code, but that's one of the things that a coding bootcamp gives you, is just that experience of being surrounded by developers and other people that are coding. And like at the coding bootcamp that I taught at, we would run projects that are very similar to real world projects. So we would have requirements, and you would have a Scrum team, and you'd have a Scrum board, and basically I would run things the same way that I used to do things when I was actually in industry. Now I don't teach anymore. I'm back in industry. But yeah, it's like a software simulator basically. The leaderboard is the drop game. So if you do exclamation mark drop, it'll drop a thing, and if it lands right here, you might get your name on the leaderboard. Yeah, so the keys in here are strict value and type. Yeah. Blocked. Izzy Gaming says, keep up the good work. I stopped watching gaming on Twitch to watch your streams. By far more entertaining than watching WoW and whatnot. I appreciate that, Izzy Gaming. Thanks for hanging out with us. And I think you were the one that asked about a dictionary, right? This is what you want, a map. Map.has is a lot better than object.prototype.has own property. You can also do in. I showed that earlier, so you could say property in object. I don't know. Oh, okay. Twitch delay is crazy. I enabled a low latency stream. Oh no! Man, my share mouse keeps breaking. But I actually enabled low latency streaming on YouTube, so it might actually have like a very short delay. I'm still behind on chat. We're going to start coding on the chat manager pretty soon. So for those of you that stuck around after the raid, what we're going to do now is this overlay that you're looking at. This is actually an Electron window that I built. And we're going to add Frankerface global emotes and Frankerface channel emotes to it. Because right now it has support for Better Twitch TV global emotes. So right now, send me all your BTTV global emotes. You'll see them pop up here. And we're going to get those working in this overlay. That's the plan. Yeah, absolutely. So a bootcamp actually, it definitely is about being held accountable. A lot of people don't need that. Like a lot of people can just learn on their own, but some people need the accountability of like going to a place every day to learn to code and stuff like that. Zoroastrian Chemist says, at my bootcamp, we also did very team-oriented projects. We had user experience, data scientist, front end and back end. It taught me a ton. Yeah, like, I mean, it's so hard to get that kind of experience when you're just being self-taught without actually working with others. Because this is so much closer to what you're going to be doing in the real world than just like building projects on your own. That said, some jobs you do work alone. Like right now, I'm the sole front-end, back-end database developer on this project that I'm working on. But it may not be that way all the time. Like, we're just a small company, so that's the way it worked out. But I am collaborating with project managers and designers and different things like that. I have tried Swagger, yeah. I can show you something real quick. So I've been, I guess collaborating is the right word, with InstaFluff. And I'm building a high score server. Comfy game server. So I'm building a high score server that can be used by multiple games and potentially multiple different streams. Let's see if this loads. Yeah. So, and I actually used Swagger documentation for it. So you can get all the channels that have been added to the leaderboard. You can get all the leaderboards. You can get players that have played on the leaderboard. You can get scores. Add administrators to the system, and then there are endpoints for administering the system, like creating new channels and deleting channels and updating players and stuff like that. So this is Swagger. This is a description of the API, and it actually allows you to interact with it. So I could do like leaderboards get, try it out. It has in here, I have all of my query parameters documented, and I have all of my schemas written in JSON schema, so we can see those are documented here, and then we can try it out. And that lists all of the leaderboards. And right now there's one leaderboard for the game Penguin Drop that has an ID. So I can take that ID and then go into the leaderboards by ID endpoint. We'll try this one out. And we'll pass in the ID here, execute. And this gives us the leaderboard, which has one score on it from the user with this ID. So this is Swagger. I'm actually using Feathers Swagger, which integrates pretty nicely with the Feathers backend for that. But yeah. Now you were teaching, guys. It's just not a coding bootcamp. Yeah, but there are a lot of... So I learned a lot about being a teacher and like what it means to be a teacher, and just talking at you isn't necessarily the same thing as what I used to do, which is like providing assignments and doing checks for understanding and things like that, which is kind of hard to do remotely over the internet. I want to figure that out though. We'll have a remote school eventually. I believe so, Sai. I think you can pass in any type to a map. The custom equal function, I think it would just go by reference, and the fact that there's no other object with that same reference and you have to use the same one. I don't know. Andrew's saying check out weak map. I'm still behind on chat though. we need to we need to code this thing. All right. I don't know. You tell me. Is YouTube less delayed than Twitch? It does make it hard to catch up. It's very true. Pog. So Sunday night we didn't actually play a game. We made a game though, and it was very rushed. But let's all play this game together. This is a programming word game. You go to this link, just type in your name and choose what team you want to join. I'm gonna join team 1, and basically each team gets a chance to guess the word, and the first person on the team to submit a guess, that counts as the guess for that team. What we want to do eventually is have it so that, so like it's very hard to get a chance to even try and guess, because the first person on your team that submits it. But what we want to do is we want to add like a chat system so that your team your team can collaborate to decide which letter they want to guess next. And we have some thoughts on World Wide Web, of course. World. Nice, we got it. And we had some thoughts on how to make it more of a game, because right now it's just never ending. The game just goes on forever, and the scores keep either going up or down. But what we want to do is have like a goal to the game. So you potentially would have a garden of vegetables, and then for every correct letter you get right, you get to harvest that vegetable from your garden, and the first team to completely clear out their garden wins, something like that. But this is what we got working so far, and it's still kind of fun. But yeah. Hello, Sticks. Welcome. I appreciate that, Evil Pisces. I do what I can. I try. That's all. I guess that's all you can ask, but I try. Oh, look at Shaggy with the marquee. Very nice. Oh, that's pretty good. Izzy Gaming is saying, I wish I could go to a boot camp, but I can't pay that money back as quickly as they want it. I also can't be away from the kids and wife long enough for it. Yeah, it's really hard. Like, the one I taught at was a 6-month-long program, so literally my students had to give up their lives for 6 months. Like, part of the admission process was you're not allowed to have a second job or have a job while you're in the program. Like, you have to be dedicated to learning for those 6 months, and that's time away from family. That's time without a job. It's hard. Not a lot of people can do it. It's very hard. Yeah. Okay, yeah, check that out for maps versus objects. Cooldown. The drop game here has a 90-second cooldown, and then this doesn't have a cooldown at all. Yeah. The point is so that I can be one of the best developers at a small company, I guess. I don't know. Having a lot of experience in programming isn't about like getting a job at like the biggest company you can or something like that. At least in my opinion. You learn for yourself. Like what do you want out of this world, and where do you want to work? But I've worked at large companies. I've worked at small companies, and I prefer small companies. Yeah, it's flexible. It's very flexible, and I'm appreciated. And like we're a small team and we all know each other. But yeah, hello Charles Decode, welcome. I have to use Swagger in my work, but the backend is being made in Laravel. Oh, I don't have any experience with that. For me, my documentation was mostly auto-generated. I just had to add some customization to like make certain endpoints appear here, like under the admin. And then I did some customization to add like custom query parameters here. But for the most part, it's generated by Feather's Swagger. Oh, yeah, it's true. It's true, Doc. You're not wrong. You actually do sometimes get a linter error if you try to use in, or you just say object dot has own property. Yeah, you're right. But still, you have to do dot get or dot set. It's not as cool as bracket notation. If I taught an online school, I'd sign up in a heartbeat. Thank you, client telephone. I gotta figure out how to like. I have a vision, and I don't want to try doing something without being able to do some sort of that vision. I don't know. JavaScript game jam? That'd be fun. Is this still going? Yeah, people are still playing. Speculative parsing. Very interesting. That's the plan, One Pocket Pimp. Either do like voting or collaborating in chat on each individual team that's playing. So like one member of the team could suggest a letter, and then everyone else can vote for it or suggest a different letter. And then there's like a 30-second timer, so the team has to submit their guess before the end of 30 seconds. That's the plan. We just got the initial like back-end game server going with the multiple teams and stuff like that. Let's drink. Is it this? It's not this console, is it? No, you mean this? This is just telling you what happened. So someone guessed a letter, and it was incorrect. It just gives you a history of what happened. Yeah, Ryan, we're live. I'm just really behind on the chat, but we're live. And welcome. Hello. Oh, sorry about that, Deadly. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that much. That's true. Yeah, because there are some boot camps where you don't pay until you get a job. Part of it though is like the onboarding or interview process where you have to have at least tried to start learning to code first to get into the program, so they know that they have a chance of you actually getting a job, that kind of thing. But yeah. Hello, Alberta. Oh, Albert, not Alberta. Sorry. Welcome. Charles to Code. Welcome. Hello. How to develop Express on a local machine? I want to start my server whenever I turn on my computer. You could use something like Forever or PM2. I'm going to suggest PM2. So PM2 is a process manager for Node, and you can set it to start at boot, and it will automatically restart like an Express program or any Node.js program if it... you know what? Are my links even going through? I don't know if they did or not. Dang it. But check out PM2. It can automatically run node processes and run in the background. Hello, Akai. Welcome. As long as it's not a vision like Siraj's School of AI. Yeah, no, so like that's the thing. Like I actually care. I don't want to I honestly don't want to take people's money. Like I want it to be more of like a pay what you can, pay if you learn kind of thing. I'm not trying to scam anybody. I don't know. I just want it to be useful to people, and it's like, and especially like some of the people have mentioned. Like a lot of these schools can be so expensive to go to, and like you have a family, like you have to take off of work, and you're trying to better your life. I wanna help in every way I can. I don't know. And Seek a Player with another raid. Welcome everyone. We're just chatting. So right now. We're playing this game that we created the other day. And welcome, Seek a Player. Welcome to the show. This game, Word Garden. So if you go to the website, type in your name, you can choose which team you want to be on, and then try to start guessing whatever this word is. We built it a few days ago, so we're just playing that. And I'm catching Gumba on the chat. You have made it to our Code Katas Wednesday stream. So earlier, we were solving coding problems. We actually solved... some fairly easy problems, the 8 Qs. But we talked about different types of functions. We talked about hoisting. We talked about arrow functions and how those work differently. And then we solved this problem, sum arrays, which is basically taking the numbers in an array and adding them up. But we solved it in 10 different ways. We went backwards, we went forwards. We solved it with the for each. We solved it with the reduce. We solved it with different types of arrow functions with like automatic returns. We basically did some very simple problems, but talked about how to do them in different ways and what's involved. And now we're just chatting. I'm a couple minutes behind on chat, as you can see. But once I get caught up, we're going to attempt to implement Franker face emotes in my chat overlay here, because this is an Electron chat overlay window that I built. The drop game was coded on stream. It's actually just a browser game. So that's another thing you can do while you're here is in the chat. If you type !drop, if you do drop me, it's going to do a drop on the screen with your with your avatar. And if it lands right here, you'll make it on the leaderboard. I can do it from YouTube as well. Drop me. Maybe. Yeah, there I am. But this was coded on stream, and it's really just a browser game. Like, actually, if I go to localhost, I think it's 3000? Yeah. It's literally just a browser game, and then I have this as a source in OBS. I gotta close it or else it'll make it on the leaderboard. Oh, great drop. Nice drops, everyone. But the code is open source. github.com/codinggarden/seedling drop. And then if you just search my YouTube channel for, like, Twitch overlay, somebody rickrolling me. Shaggy's rickrolling me. Never gonna give you up. Actually, I'll find the video really quick. But yeah, I coded it live on stream. It's pretty fun. Oh, and if you watched during Christmas time, we made a Christmas drop game where if your drop landed on the tree, it became an ornament. But this is the video where I first made the drop game. I'll share that. Cool. All right, we're three minutes behind on chat. No, 4 minutes? What? No, 3. We're catching up. Yeah. I don't know. Like, YouTube chat, YouTube APIs, they're all kind of messed up. I always have issues with them. Have I done any recursive algorithms with tail call optimization? I have not. But tail call optimization is a new thing in ES 2015. Where the JavaScript engine will automatically detect if, like, instead of having a Stack Overflow where you have a recursive function that calls itself too much, it'll detect that might happen and prevent it from happening. But I really don't have any experience with it. And thanks again, Sika Player, for the raid. Everyone should check out Sika Player's channel. And check out Mastermind's channel, who raided earlier. Mastermindio. Check them out. So Mastermind has a DevOps bootcamp that they've been doing. Like, the last stream, they were teaching Go, and I think this stream they were teaching and learning Python. And then Sika Player is just learning to code. Last time he was working on Vue. I don't know what he's working on this time, but check him out on Twitch as well. Sika Player. Give him a follow. Pew. Hello, welcome. Yeah, definitely. Raid! Cash Fiend is saying, what are some good ways to learn Python? I'm a cybersecurity major. I mainly do JavaScript. I don't really know of any Python resources. I used to do Python, but I kind of just learned from the docs. I don't know. Anybody in the chat, if you have suggestions, feel free. Yeah. I mean, it would be cool to have a lot of, like, various online teaching resources all in one spot. Something like that. I don't know. I have to think through it. Kind of like Hangman. Yeah, this is a politically correct version of Hangman. Data structure. But it's team-based. Is the cool thing. Cool. I appreciate that, client telephone. Always guess E. There's always one E. There's always one E. Yeah, I'm not so sure about Python. Yeah, that's the other cool thing about the drop game. Oh, is that Daniel Schiffman? Look at him. But Terrazoid, who I think was maybe just playing the drop game earlier, but Terrazoid actually made a pull request to this game, which added the collisions, so that's pretty fun. Never gonna catch up. Yeah, we're gonna scroll fast. Oh, well, I'm gonna handle it now. Well, I don't know. About data structures and algorithms and importance, which makes me want to study about it. Any suggestions? I mentioned this earlier, but if you're going to get a job at a company that's doing, that's interviewing students that get computer science degrees, or it's one of these larger companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, in the interview process, they're going to ask you algorithms and data structures related problems. That's just the way things go. However, as a front-end developer, even as a full-stack developer, you really don't touch those things much, if ever. Maybe if you're working at a larger companies that's working on, like, very scaled projects with, like, very complex architecture, then probably. but as a junior dev, you're not going to be needing to use that stuff anyways. So, I don't know. Like I said earlier, I'm just a guy. I don't know. Don't listen to me. Halloween drop where you land on the pumpkin you carve? That'd be cool. We gotta figure something out for Halloween for sure. That's a long ways away. What's another holiday that's coming up? Yeah, I would say so. Automatic TCO, till call optimization, was removed because Microsoft couldn't implement it in Edge. That's funny. Thank you, Doc. Thank you for the snippet. And there is a kata to implement it yourself. Would you build a website using Python? You could build the back end with Python, and you could do server-side rendering. And my screen is messing up. But with Python, you could use a framework like Django, and Django would basically, it's Python that would generate the HTML that you would then load in the browser. So you could build sites with Python. It's possible. I'll say that. I think we're almost caught up. Are we almost caught up? Right now, we're gonna work on the we could do something for Valentine's Day. What if it's like I don't know, Cupid shooting arrows? Like maybe there's two Cupids and it shoots an arrow. I don't know. There's Easter. We could do like an egg hunt game. That would be fun. No, we're caught up. Hello, Alka. Welcome. All right, so Alka, could you help me out? Could you send me? You sent it to me a while back, but the Frankerface Global Emotes API. That's what I want right now. So basically, and anybody that's in the chat on Twitch, or actually even on YouTube, it probably works better on Twitch, but if you send a message that has a better Twitch TV emote, it'll render. Yeah, and so that's the other thing I need to add is channel emotes for Coding Garden from Frankerface. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to do now. Yeah, so right now these aren't working. We need to get those working. Here, I'm going to hide. Oh, I need to start the... Just 1 second. 1 second. Clap. Ding dong. Yeah. Oh, I thought this was a better Twitch TV emote. Is it a lowercase m? I think it's a lowercase m. Okay, so about the regex. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. And so, yeah, because there's that better Twitch TV emote. I don't think so. So what? You mentioned that you that you added the easy one. Was that on Frankerface or was that on better Twitch TV? Okay, so that's what I mean then. I need to add the channel emotes from better Twitch TV. Just a moment. Okay, so we have now reached the point in the stream where things get meta. We're going to work on streaming tools. Thank you. So this is the endpoint where we can get the channel emotes enabled for Coding Garden. Let's check them out in the browser. Nice. And so basically, once I get this integrated, we should be able to see those in the overlay. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. Is the drop game broken? It shouldn't be. You have to wait. Oh, no, you... Yeah, I don't have better Twitch TV emotes in the drop game. You're right. I only have regular emotes. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah, someone add Party Parrot to the to this thing. So the only issue is we call this when the app first starts up. So let's do this. We grab the emotes, and then we're going to do another request to the BTTV channel response. I'm going to grab the Coding Garden specific emotes. Yeah, so that should be a face. And actually, I need to scroll down and get what you mentioned for that regex. Party parrot! How did that work? Oh, no. I think you just added like the markdown syntax. That's fine. Cool. So, but if I refresh this, we should see party parrot. I think. Hard refresh? I don't know. Where's that message from Doc? This one. Okay. So, this regex we need to fix according to this comment from Doc, but we get the better Twitch TV channel response. We're going to grab the emotes. We're going to rename it to channel emotes. And that's going to be await BTTV channel response .json. And actually, I'm going to make this a let, so that way I can just say emotes equals emotes.concat channel emotes. So that should add all of them. Replace the first /b with this. And the second with that. And it'll work for the ones with the colons. Though, now these are regex matching sections. So my replacer function, I think, needs to be updated to take the second parameter. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to save this. We're going to refresh that. Okay, try the channel emotes now. Actually, try emotes in better Twitch TV emotes in general. Ah. So that still works. That's good. There's a clap. Nice. All right, I'm gonna add this really quick though. There's some loading issues. Donut is asking, what do you use for a hard refresh? In Chrome, you can do Command Shift R, Control Shift R. Or you can right click this, I believe, or like command click this. Usually it's Command Shift R to do a hard refresh. You could also open the DevTools and then on the network tab, disable the cache and then refresh. And that should do hard refresh. Why don't I see Party Parrot though? The drop game. Oh, so it says the time of the high score. Is that what you mean? We could probably add that. Oh, look, it works now. Nice, Doc. Why the ops on TS? Oh, opinions on TypeScript? Yeah. Oh, it takes time to update. Okay, so we won't get those today, but we have most of the channel ones. Now I also want to add franker face global emotes. You can look at their API. How do we just get the global emotes though? Because I know, oh, remaining time until drop. I see. Ah, very nice. Did it fix it? Sets/global. Okay, cool. Let's try this one. That's weird though, because I feel like this emote is being parsed in a different place, but oh well. Okay, so we have our default sets. There are 3 of them. Emoticons. Title is global emotes, and then this one, title is Sten's cheaty emotes. What's the difference? I'm not yeah, so it didn't capture it in there for some reason. I'm okay with that. I guess we don't have sad cat yet. Is Pepega, is that a Franker face emote? Weird, I don't know. Hopefully we didn't lose YouTube. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think we did. Okay, can anyone tell me the difference between Sten's cheaty emotes? Oh, are user specific? Why is it giving them in global then? Oh well, we won't look at that one. We're gonna look at sets ID3, which is global emotes. This has an array of emoticons. Each one has a name and a URL. So if we look at this one, hello, Hyzal, welcome. And that's an upside down Franker face dog. Cool. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make a request to this API. And we're also just gonna concat it onto the array. Honestly, we're gonna do all the emotes in one go. So that gets the better Twitch TV ones. We'll say FFZ response await fetch against that endpoint. And then oh, I broke it. Chat. I just broke chat. I forgot that I can't enable autosave, or the whole thing goes down. Not all users should be able to use all of the sets provided. The default sets key of the returned object contains a list of set IDs that should be available for all users to use. I see. So default sets 3 means that 3 is the global one that everyone should be able to use. While we're at it, I need to disable auto refresh or auto save. There we go. I should avoid something like that from happening. So we're going to say, basically, we need to grab sets and then the value 3 out of it. So we're just going to grab sets. FFZ response.json. And then I'm actually just going to iterate over sets at 3 dot emoticons. Because sets at 3 dot emoticons is an array. Each one has a name and then a URL. And I believe, oh, are we replacing the URL in the replacer function? Shouldn't do that. Are we? Yeah, we are. Well, darn it. Because we get the name. I think what we should do is we should put the URL on this object. Because we're saying code equals ID. Did I lose chat? No, I don't think so. Okay. Thanks for the follow, Nafto. Hello, thank you. You know what? I think we'll just make a separate function because this is technically our BTDV parsing function, and we should do a separate function for Frankerface. I'm curious though, is YouTube broken? Are my YouTubers still out there? Nice. Okay. You can never be too sure because I'm messing with the code that handles the overlay anyways. Yeah, at this point, we're basically working on the backend server that manages this overlay that shows the Twitch and the YouTube chat. So, and honestly, this code is so, like, all of this code needs to be completely and totally rewritten, which is why I'm okay with just creating a separate function, because in the future, we're just going to rewrite all of this anyways. We're going to call this get BTTV emotes. So we initialize to that. We did call it BTDV emotes. Cool. And then similarly, we're going to do FFZ emotes, which is going to be an object. YouTube is the Wild West. And then I'll have my Frankerface regex, which is honestly the same well, really, I should combine them. I'm not gonna though. I'm not gonna combine them. We're just gonna duplicate the work. So now we'll have another function, get FFZ emotes. We call the API. You know what? We already did it. Okay, so call the API. We get the sets. We iterate over the emoticons. So say emoticons.forEach. We're going to get access to each emoticon. And we want to say FFC emotes at the name. We can destructure it. We should be able to grab the name of the emote. So FFZ emotes at name equals, and then we can grab URLs. When is there ever more than one URL though? Hello. Yeah, I'm still here. I'm working on my overlay. I'm making it so that we can use Frankerface emotes in the overlay. URLs bracket 1. URLs bracket 1. Oh, so really, we want to find the key that has the highest value, because that's probably going to be the largest one. Yeah, look at that. Though, maybe we'll say 2, and then if 2 doesn't exist, we'll choose 1, because that's a better size. I think we'll do that. So I think like we're going to iterate over these emoticons. If it has a 2 property, we'll use it. Otherwise, we'll use a 1 property. Dot pop. It's an object, though. Yeah. There's actually not that many of them. That's okay, though. Highest res available. But the thing is, my overlay just shows them at the size of their image, so they're going to be really big. Object.values.pop. We could do that. I don't know. So we can say URLs. And we can say object.values of the URLs. .pop is going to give us the last one, so it's going to give us the unnecessarily high-res emote. So we're creating an object where the name is going to be like Yoo-hoo or Yellow Fever. Or man chicken. And then the value is going to be this. Though I'm going to put HTTPS at the beginning because, yeah, we're going to put HTTPS at the beginning. Plus the URL. And then we'll build out our regex string. That's going to be very similar. Oh, thank you, Bob. Oh, you're right. It already. Thank you. It already has // So we really just need to add HTTPS colon. All right, quick stretch. We're almost done. And then I'm going to go eat some dinner. That's my plan. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, Alka. But people are like, we'll see. Right now, we're just going to grab the highest res possible. And we'll go from there. So we'll do that. And then we're going to build up a regex string very similarly to how we did it before. But instead of the code, we're going to do name. We'll just call this emote so we get access to it. So plus equals name. If it's the last one, don't put a pipe, but otherwise we'll put a pipe next to it. And then we'll create our Frankerface regex, which is going to be that with the regex string, very similar. And then we're going to log our FFZ emotes and our FFZ regex. Cool. And then when the app starts up, we're going to get our BTTV emotes, and we're also going to get our Frankerface emotes. And now we need to use it. So what we were doing was, for the message, we just pass it into a regular expression, like this. So event.message equals event.message.replace, and then we do that. It's going to be very similar, but now we're going to use the Frankerface regex. We're actually going to get back the URL. And so in this case, we'll just do a thing like that. Put the URL in it. Good to go. And then, so that's for the Twitch chats. And then we'll do it for the YouTube chats as well, which is basically right here. All right, is it gonna work? Event is not defined. Line 225. Oh, sorry. Message. Oh, good call. Thank you. I also needed to replace that there, but you're right. This should be $, so it actually gets the value of the URL. And then I need to update that on the Twitch message as well. There we go. All right. Try your worst. Try your well, that didn't work. Let's see. So I think these are the Frankerface possibilities. Yeah. So I'm trying to match against these names. That works. Easy and clap should work. Try putting in any one of these words here. Oh wait, no. Those are sorry, those are Better Twitch TV. It's broken. Sorry, it's broken. Line 53, I is not defined. Oh, you're right. When you're right, you're right. It's broke. It's borked. It definitely wasn't working. Yeah, that was it. Should work now. Older messages don't get parsed, but the newer ones should get parsed. These ones. Well. It shows absolutely nothing. there's Party Parrot. I think that's from Better Twitch TV, though. The URL is wrong? https://cdn.frankerface.com/something. That should work. That's a cat bag. I need to see what they're actually getting turned into. Like, I can look at this chat manager to actually view the source. Oh, whoa. It's not the URL, it's the name. So what we actually, yeah, so it's literally replacing it with the name. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what's happening. So what we need to do is we need to use this object that has the URLs in it, and we'll use that instead. So in our replacer function, right here, we'll say, and really this is the name, technically. Name. And so we'll say ffz emotes at that given name, which should give us the URL. And so that we'll use that same regex on the YouTube function right here. Like that. And we should be good. This is the winner. We'll do that. There we go. Look how big they are. which is why I think we should grab either one or two. Though technically we could turn them into an image tag with a fixed height and width. Let's do this. No, not this. View the DevTools. What would this look like with a width of 50 pixels? I think it's good. I think I could default all of them to be a width of 50 pixels. I think that's the way to go. Why doesn't ditto work? I don't think that's a global one. I think it's perfect. The parentheses need to be escaped. So yeah, if we look at what got generated from their API, we're given. Wait, is that a Better Twitch TV one? Yeah. So technically, we need to escape those. Well, we could. Yeah. Ditto. Is that ditto? Don't use regex. You have to, though. I mean, there's other ways, but that's fine. So I think here's what I'm going to do. Instead of passing them in as markdown images, I'm going to pass them in as an actual image with a source attribute. And say height equals 50 pixels. Give them a title? Oh, Alka does yours without regex? Okay. Yeah, regular expressions are fun, right? Replace parenthesis with parenthesis. What? What? Do they really need a title, though? Will that work for, like, the hover effect? Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for Twitch messages. I believe this is... We're in the YouTube message function. Dozo says, fix the image tag. Ooh, I'll try. Let's make sure I did it right. Oh, yeah, thank you. I need a closing. Image source, that's the URL, that's the title. So we default it to a height of 50. Cool. Thank you, Thozo. And then close her off, save it, refresh it. One more refresh. And so the older ones are still gigantic, I think. Yeah, but now if you do the Frankerface emotes, we didn't fix Ditto. I'm not going to fix Ditto. I think I'm done streaming for tonight. But now the Frankerface ones all have the same size, which is nice. Nice. Thanks for the follow, First at Birth. Do we get a... Yeah. Beanie Hipster. Cat Bag. Man Chicken. Yellow Fever. Party Parrot. Wait, Party Parrot is a Better Twitch TV one, right? So I don't have the title text on those. Ditto or Riot? Okay, you know what? You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Whenever we're parsing the Better Twitch TV emotes, we will say it. Code.replace parentheses escaped with an escaped parenthesis. Like that, right? Okay. I mean, if that's the case, then I just could do this, right? Dot replace, dot replace, dot replace, dot replace. Is this a bad thing to do? So we'll do it with closing, and we'll do it with opening. And opening. Is that it? Am I going to break everything? Let's see. Save. Now our regex says ditto. Yeah, should work. Hey, there's ditto. Okay, I think I'm done for tonight. This was fun, though. At least we got that stuff working. And we got channel emotes. So we got easy, we got clap. We had a good time. PogChamp. Nice. Clap. Clap emotes. Clap emotes in the chat. That's what Twitch streamers say, right? Clap, chat, clap. So let me know what you all think about this. Like, I've been watching a lot of Twitch streamers lately, and they always refer to the chat as chat. So like, chat is an entity. I don't like that. Like, to me, that's so impersonal. It's like, oh, this one's cool. What's this one? But yeah, you all aren't chat. You all are Deadly and Doc and Alka and Shaggy. I guess that's a BTTV one. Pepe, please. I see. We are one. We are chat. I don't know. It's a Twitch thing, I guess. But yeah. So Seedling Drop is reading from the same API that we were just working on. So basically, all these systems that I'm using, because I'm streaming on both Twitch and YouTube, I have to tap into 2 different chat streams. So Seedling Drop talks to the backend that's controlling this overlay, because that backend hooks up to Twitch and YouTube. That gets in the messages, and then it emits socket events to any of its clients. So this is a client. Seedling Drop is a client. This other chat window that I usually have open, this is also a client to that backend server, and it listens for socket messages from my custom backend server. It's sockets. That's why you might not see endpoints, because it's listening for socket messages. I see. When we are 1,000, we become... I guess that makes sense. Like, when you can't individually talk to everyone. But yeah. I am now chat. I need library for a video call in Node.js. Not really, no. You can look into WebRTC. So that's peer-to-peer video and audio sharing technology that's built into the web browser. Like, you wouldn't use it in Node.js, but you could do it in the browser. Come with us, CJ. Hello, Shmer. What's this one? Is this a monk? Is that like Monkus? We just got oh yeah, so I don't have BTTV or Frankerface emotes working in the drop game. That's for another day. I gotta go. But put it on the to-do list. But yeah, in the drop game, we need to enable those as well. I don't think you can have a period on it. Oh, it's the feels good man. I see. Monkus? Yeah, I don't know these things. I'm new to all that. Alrighty, everyone, thanks for hanging out with us. Next stream is probably going to be Friday morning. We're going to do a Q&A stream. In the meantime, if you have questions, you can go to qa.coding.garden. Ask your question here. Right now, Twitch login might be broken. We'll see. Yeah, it's over. I've been live for a little over 3 hours. Mungo. Monkus. But you can ask questions here, and Friday morning I'll be drinking tea and answering questions. But yeah, this was fun. This was a very interesting Code Wars Code Katas stream because we did very simple problems, but we talked about them for like 2 hours. And I feel like a lot of people got good JavaScript questions in, so that was fun. So thanks everyone for watching. Let's find someone to raid. Twitch.tv. Oh yeah, we'll go to my channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, head over to Twitch, and you can join us in this raid. Were there any bad JavaScript? No, there are no bad JavaScript questions. But we got to talk about automatic semicolon insertion. We got to talk about, like, why does Java have types and JavaScript doesn't? Stuff like that. Raid. Search for somebody doing web development. Pizza Time Arcade? Gooseman is streaming? I guess he might not be under the web development tag. I did TypeScript on stream yesterday. I did 2 streams yesterday with TypeScript. Yeah, I did. Oh yeah, and Shaggy just sent the raid message, so be sure to copy that. Hey, Gooseman. We've raided Gooseman before. Let's see. Hacking with Python or something. Vape Juice Jordan is doing TypeScript. Oh, that's me. I'm doing a clap. Claps in the chat. Claps in the chat. Well, don't do claps in the chat because then we'll miss the raid message. Never mind. Let me see who else is on the live coders team. There's VFX, Callow Creation, Twitch chatbot version 3 with unit testing, Anna Geek is working on art. Guzman, we'll raid Guzman. Well, actually, wait. What's Quality Coder? Who are they? What are they doing? Something Ogmabot. Okay, we're gonna raid Talk to Me Guzman. So, like I said, if you're on YouTube, head over to twitch.tv/codinggarden first. Go there first, because you gotta join us in the raid. We're gonna do the raid. There's that. Thanks everyone for watching. This was super fun. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for all your help. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.